Greetings and aloha, everyone. How you doing? Happy Sunday all over your body. Look at that. I'm even on time today. Dude, giant. Absolutely giant. I hope you guys are fantastic, truly. Welcome to a Sunday from the Big Mango. Greetings, it's Mike's from livemyassoff.com, and happy Sunday from where I'm at least. Probably Saturday evening, where a lot of you are from. Got my Diet Coke. Hopefully you guys do as well, whatever your Diet Coke flavor is. I remember when I was a kid, we basically called everything a Coke. So it'd be like, dude, can you get me a Coke? Yeah, sure. What kind do you want? Oh, Mountain Dew. Hopefully you guys do as well, whatever your Diet Coke flavor is. I remember when I was a kid, we basically called everything a Coke. So it'd be like, dude, can you get me a Coke? Yeah, sure. What kind do you... Oh, my God. The technology should help, not hinder. But no. Anyway, sorry about that. The first thing I want to do is thank everyone, literally everyone, for subscribing, but also to the more recent subscribers. I definitely want to say thanks for that. That was huge and hugely appreciated. And I'm guessing that my thank you 1,000 people video is not going to get as much airplay as maybe some others, but for the simple reason that there's massive copyright infringement inside of it. But the really cool part is that I got over 1,000, and so now all I got to do is wait for the community tab to show up, which again, ideally, there will be additional technical opportunity for me with that. Not the least of which is the ability to thank you guys for showing up, basically. And Tony, good to see you, buddy. Tonic. That's right. Yeah, it depends on where you're from, right? Clay, good to see you. Glad you're here. One of the guys that I work with in radio is actually ridiculously popular now. He wasn't when we first started working with him, but is Dave Ramsey. He's a pretty sharp guy. Has a good business sense. And so let me do one thing, because here's what I want to do. Because what I'm trying to do, actually, in order to thank all of you, is to basically put together a list, which is going to be infinitely more, let's see, what's the right word? Infinitely more elegant than what this is. And I'll show you here in a second. But the beauty of this, at least, I think, is that I can say, hey, thanks a lot. Appreciate it. But the goal, the end goal, is to make it so that the list of people that subscribe, as well as the list of people that share during that like put their input into the chat during our live stream, get acknowledged towards the end, because it's always sort of bugged me out that I don't do that well. I tried doing it in the beginning, and then what I discovered is that without a doubt, I will forget at least some people, right? Well, that's kind of lame, because I mean, I've been on the other end, right? And so I've been, one of the guys that the guy forgot. So I know what that feels like, right? That's not really cool. But with any luck, what I'm going to be able to do here is I'm going to be able to show you what I mean. So these are the people who have subscribed to me in the last little while, and meaning within the last 7 days. But the problem is that what I don't have the ability to do is sort of scroll this elegantly, right? Because what I would really like to do is I'd like to be able to sort of scroll it like as if it were like the end credits, right, to a movie. So I'm working on that. So if you'll be patient with me, I would really appreciate that, because believe me, just because I showed it just now doesn't mean that your name is going to go away and I won't thank you again. So the other thing to remember, and this may be no fault of your own, is that YouTube only gives me the ability to display those people that allow their subscription to various channels to show up. And I can totally appreciate that. And in fact, so for example, right, so like Rob was on the program a while back, but he doesn't publish like who he subscribes to, right? And I can totally understand that because, you know, I mean, he's got some degree of like public figureness. And so I can understand why he would just be like, nah, that's not something that I want to, you know, that I want to share because, you know, arguably he sets himself up for ridicule. So, which is really too bad. But nonetheless, that's sort of the reality of what's happening with Rob and some of his public behavior. Now, the good news for me, as I've always said to you guys, is the fact that like I feel like we're all buddies here. And, you know, again, that may just be sort of, I don't know, maybe it's like wishful thinking or something like that. But again, I'm going to wishfully think it. How's that? Because I do feel like there's some degree of I know you in this whole thing. And, you know, I hope that to some degree you guys sort of feel the same way. But the interesting part for me, at least, is using the technology to be able to thank you to the best of my ability. Okay. So while I am totally a geek, then, you know, part of this is also because I have a desire to acknowledge people for what they do. Because look, there's three ways you can basically contribute to anything, whether that's church or your business or your relationship or whatever. It's time, talent, and treasure. And you guys are giving me your time. And I hugely appreciate that. A couple of you have given me your treasure as well, and I'm honored by that. And that is not a requirement, you know, and it just blew me away. So again, I want to thank Nico and Brian. So thanks for the pop, Brian. Rackman YouTube, thank you and greetings to you, sir, from Atlanta. Awesome. Oh, good. Stepping out's here. Good to see you, Juan. I guess you're done with your walking your dog, right? That's kind of cool. Jim Jess, I want you to. Jim just says, I just want to be on the cool kids table. And basically, that's the way I sort of think of this, right? Because Aaron, good to see you. Curtis, awesome. Virginia Beach, that's totally cool. And thank you for being a new sub, man. Yeah, I do blame Rob for some of my success. Absolutely. I just so we're clear, he wasn't the motivation for shaving my head. My Gracie was the girlfriend is the girlfriend, and so she's the motivation for me shaving my head because when your girlfriend says to you, "Oh my God, you look so much younger," well, that's a motivation enough. Randy, good to see you. Keith, all right, man. Finally, a warmer San Diego, Keith, huh? Yeah, I mean, when I was back there, one of the reasons that I moved here was because it was just too cold in San Diego. It just got too cold for me. And of course, try convincing anyone else in the United States of that, because, you know, the United States has been well conditioned. Whoever was in charge of sort of the whoever's in charge of sort of the marketing of San Diego in the United States did a great job, because there is this belief that San Diego has perfect weather. And maybe it's perfect for some. It is not perfect for me. Honestly, Thailand has perfect weather for me. I love hot. I love humid. And when it rains, I like energetic rain. But that said, Keith, I lived in San Diego for over 20 years. And it was, you know, I lived in San Diego and then I got the opportunity to move for work. I don't know if that's ever happened for you guys. And I did. I moved to St. Louis, and it was so awesome. The cost of living was low. There was green everywhere. The people were amazing in the Midwest. The problem is every morning I woke up and I was in St. Louis. And that meant that I got about 2 good weeks of weather in the spring and about 2 good weeks in the fall. And they brought me out there to St. Louis in the fall when when everything was green and on a week where it didn't rain. And I'm like, oh my God, this place is amazing, you know? So then I'm like, yeah, totally, I'll take this gig. So then I go out there and I stay there. I get a place to live and I'm all set up. And October shows up. And I'm like, man, I am freezing. And I go into the office, with my actually I had quite a bit of hair. So hair in the front as well as the ponytail in the back, earrings and the whole thing, this is in my 20s. And I had thermal underwear on, right, in October in St. Louis. And I walk in and they're like, are you okay? Is everything? I'm like, do you guys know that it's like 55 degrees outside? And they're like, yeah, California. It totally is. Suck it up, right? So I was like, yeah, okay. Clay, thank you so much. Yeah, that's very cool. And thank you to Rike. So Rike was going to cruise by the stream today because me and him and Rob and several other guys have tried, but are also talking about like how we're going to, collaborate better and what better way to do it live. But if you know anything about me or you know anything about Rike, both of us are pretty technically savvy. And one could argue either of us, both of us, or I'll just speak for myself, have a technical obsession, meaning that if I'm going to do something technically, like I'm going to do it right, I'm going to do it 110% at 80 miles an hour. And he's pretty focused when he gets in, when he really enjoys something, much like I think a lot of us, but he also really gets focused. So definitely, Calais. That's really cool that you came by. Brian, a typical shower in Los Angeles would be a disaster. In New York City, Boston. It's so fun to sit and watch. I will tell you, dude, the first time I'm in San Diego, right, and it rains, and it rains a lot. I don't know about you guys that have ever not grown up in Southern California and come from outside to move to, First thing I said to myself, and you may be saying this to your head right now, which is, God, these people don't know how to drive. And because, again, to be fair, though, I mean, the streets that were dry for the last 6 months were all of a sudden oily, right? And so the water gets on and you're slipping around. But I don't know about you guys. If you grew up basically in a area where there would be snow and there would be basically there would be full on winter and there would be ice and that sort of thing, and driving would be a challenge. I would drive with my buddies and we would go into church parking lots where there was snow and do donuts and stuff. And we thought we were really cool. But what we realized actually, shortly thereafter, was that we really learned how to control a car because, I mean, if you can do it then you come to into the Los Angeles, Mike. Yeah. But if you can do it, then, and again, I don't know, if I had a son or a daughter and they all of a sudden wanted to take the car and I found out that they were doing donuts in the church parking lot when there was 6 inches of snow out there, I might not praise them as much as I'm praising myself for the additional skill set that I believe I acquired. Keith says, San Diego weather is fine, but up here at 3,700 feet, it gets darn cold in the winter. Can you say 20 overnight? Brr. Yeah, absolutely. I actually get cold when it's 20 degrees Celsius, but I'm quite certain that you're talking about Fahrenheit, so I get it. So 3,700 feet. Alpine? Is that where you're at, Keith? One of the guys that I worked with, or, reported to me on the org chart, but I work with him, Patrick, he lived way out there. And then we had another guy on our team that also lived out there. Out the 8, if you're familiar with the San Diego freeway system, and basically topology out there. Oh, Pine Valley, Keith, that's really awesome. Pine Valley is killer, man. Ooh, talk about return on investment. I mean, I can't even imagine what the acreage out there, and your ability to really enjoy. I just really dig it. But again, there's a reason, right? In other words, there's a reason that downtown San Diego, it's more expensive and that sort of thing, is because it's more convenient for a lot of people. It's not necessarily a better quality of life, but it's well, how long does it take you to get to work? At the end, when I was, meaning the last 6 years that I lived in San Diego, Coronado, I would basically, if you don't know, Coronado's, it's basically referred to as an island. There is a very large bridge that goes over the San Diego Bay to get there. And they have one of those zipper lanes in the middle, right? So basically in the morning, it's 3 lanes on and 2 lanes off because a large number of guys that work basically for the Navy, Navy people as well as civilians that do contracts. They come over, and those 3 lanes are literally, inching along, coming onto the island. And then I got 2 lanes that are like taking me off at like 75 miles an hour. And then coming back, same thing. For the most part, the Navy base would just completely empty out at about, it would start emptying at about 3:30. And then by 4 o'clock, full on, people getting back on the freeway, like in a lot of big cities. But it was great because it was like, people would refer to it as a reverse commute, right? So, but it was great because it took me like literally from the time I like locked my door, got into my car, started it, and drove, and then was backing into my parking spot at work, 12 minutes, right? And so that was like pretty awesome. So Rackman says, too many morons driving in Atlanta, even with few cars from the shutdown. Really? Isn't that funny, right? I mean, because, at the end of the day, you have to pass a minimum skill set. You have to have a minimum skill set and present that to the best of your ability to the driving police, right, to get your license. But yet, I don't know about you. I mean, it just seems like, now to be fair, I have never said, oh my God, I'm a bad driver. I've always sort of judged everybody else as being a bad driver, right? And what's funny is I remember meeting like some Thai people and some other Chinese people. I think they were from China, yeah, in San Diego. This is going to cause a little bit of white noise, but I'm hot. And they would even say to me, they're like, oh, no, I'm a totally bad driver. And I was like, wow, like, I wonder if I would admit that. Oh, man. Joe says people in Colorado cannot drive. They get to the end of an on-ramp and stop and look back, floor it and merge. That's an interesting paradigm. So, here's the other thing that I looked at. If you guys don't know, I stream on a whole bunch of different platforms. Mainly because what I discovered when I started doing this is literally I would get about half the people would be watching from Facebook live stream and half of the people would be watching on YouTube. So that's why I put the chat up here so everyone could sort of see the chat and say, oh, Mike, why are you talking to this person who we don't see over here on YouTube? Because they would be on Facebook, so then everyone can see it. What I've discovered, though, what this is sort of transitioned into is basically a 100% YouTube live stream. So I have a question for you now, since I believe that there's about 20 of you in here. Would you like me to remove this chat from the screen, or is it nice to have it up there to sort of see what we're talking about, even though if you're on YouTube, you can see like the current chats? Because I'm more than happy to remove this. Oh, and I even have Pigeon Cam going on today. And it's pretty nice outside, very clear in Bangkok. So anyway, just let me know what you guys think, and I will either remove it or leave it. It's up to you. Clay says, I lived in Florida, and some winters it got damn cold, so I moved to the Philippines. Yeah, it's all relative, right? Because I tell you, if I were to move back to the United States, I would go right to, it tells us where you are. Okay, Joe, that's a good vote. Nice to have it on the screen. Thank you, Vincent. Vincent Ho, are you by any chance Vin Ho, the same guy that does videos about Vietnam primarily? If not, then I'm psyched you're here. I just saw that. I'm like, oh, Vincent Ho, very cool. So personally not using the on-screen chat. Okay, very good. So good. All right. Well, basically we have someone that doesn't necessarily use it, but it doesn't bother them. And Aaron is all about the ditto. All right, guys. Well, very cool then. Unless I get some really, really sort of motivating verbiage to tell me to get it the hell out of there, then we'll keep it for the time being. So about Florida. So if I were to go back to the United States, I would absolutely go to the west coast of Florida. I'll tell you right now, one of the things that Gracie and I did from Southern California, living in San Diego, and again, try convincing anyone else in the United States that we did this because of the weather, is it was like, I don't know, March, maybe even April, something like that. And I'm thinking, man, like May Gray is starting like 2 months early. It's like June gloom is showing up. It's nowhere near June. And I get kind of depressed when that happens. And so I said to Gracie, I'm like, man, we got to get out of this. And so it was a weekend, and I had like some points or whatever on like Southwest or something like that. And it wasn't really. It was. I think it was before I did some videos on it. Actually, it's when um, we went to Fort Lauderdale, and then we drove all the way across to the west side, to the Gulf side, and we went to Lover's Key, and that was definitely one of our more favorite parts. But I definitely love the west coast of Florida. But you know, the discussion was always like, "What'd you and Gracie do this weekend?" Oh, we got on a plane and like flew to Florida from San Diego because the weather was lousy. And you know, I mean, try convincing my buddies that I grew up with in New England of that. They're like, "Okay, dude, it's like April and we have 4 inches of snow outside. So San Diego, Florida, either one." And I hear San Diego has perfect weather. Yes, well, perfect is in air quotes, and it's all relative. And I can tell you, I got some buddies that live in Florida, and oh, and here's the thing. I mean, you know, people say, "Oh, I'm going to Florida," and most of the people will, in their mind, they'll have this vision of sort of, you know, orange groves or Disneyland or the beach or warm heat, right? Kind of like, "Oh, where do you live?" "Oh, I live in California." They're like, "Oh, that must be nice." I'm like, "Well, I live in Barstow, so it's not awesome, but right." So I mean, it's a big place. Anyway, so but with Florida, I mean, if you're, I mean, I've been in Daytona during like a spring break time, like Marchish, you know, drive on the beach, whatever, and it was cold. I'm just like, no, dude, I cannot handle this. The east side, you know, the Atlantic, man, and the water, you know, it's not really all that warm in February and March, and I like that. That was my biggest disappointment when I moved to San Diego because, of course, I had this vision in my mind that it would look pretty much like a Chips episode. And sure enough, I get there, and there are guys in tan uniforms with helmets and stuff, and these cool little motorcycles, and they're like riding up and down. I'm like, oh, and then I go to the beach, and on the boardwalk, sure enough, just like in Chips, there's girls in bikinis in roller skates, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is. I mean, Chips must have been a documentary. Like, this is amazing. I'm living the dream. And so then I walk to the beach, and I'm thinking, okay, great, it's going to be just like Baywatch. Well, not exactly. And then I get to the water, and I'm like, wait a minute, I can't even like see my feet. It's only 4 feet down. And this water, this Pacific that I'm in, it's it's a little chilly, and I'm not a fan. So I just noticed that I might have been peaking on the audio, which, as you guys know, is a very annoying little thing. So hopefully I wasn't over modulating too much, and you were like, Mike, stop. But yeah, so I totally get that, dude, because it's like, yeah, I lived in San Diego. It got too cold for me. And so moved to Thailand. There were a couple of other reasons as well as the ambient temperature, you know, but, Jorgen says, in a strange way, I feel Thais are better drivers. So, you know, it's funny, right? I mean, that's a pretty interesting comment. And one could argue that, yeah, I can see why he made that, because considering how they merge. I mean, if you've been over here and you've like watched how they merge, it's not like I grew up doing it. So you come like, so there's a busy street and there's cars coming by. So you drive up and, you know, you look to, well, see, you know, what's funny is I just said, and you look to the right, and it's like, now I'm finally used to like driving on the left. So my default setting is to now look to the right. It's going to be bizarre when I go back home and I'm like, what the hell are these people doing driving? Oh, right. Okay. Steering wheel on the left. And anyway, so you go out and you look and you look to the left, you know, for oncoming cars. But the behavior that I see here is that they look to the oncoming cars. They just kind of look, but then they keep going. And the oncoming cars, I find that they're like, I don't know how to, I guess, infinitely. It's almost like they're okay with it, you know, and they're like, oh, yeah, this guy's coming into traffic. But at first I'm like, that guy didn't even look, and he just like came right into but then the person who's, you know, coming up on this guy, he will slow down or he'll go around him or whatever. Whereas where I'm from, I mean, and again, it was Boston where I learned how to drive, Boston area. You know, if you come up and you're like going, I don't know, 50, 60, and then like some person just like pulls right out in front of you, what do? You honk the horn, or you like swerve around them, or you pull around to them and go to the same speed, and then you look at them in absolute disappointment. Like they're going to be like, oh, right, I have to change my driving habits. You're right. I am so incompetent. I mean, it's just so funny, right? So the human behaviors. But yeah, over here, I mean, you know, it's funny, Jorgen. I was thinking about that. I don't know when it was. Oh, I know when it was. When I was on the bus. And on the bus, of course, you're not really concentrating on your driving. You're just sort of observing what's going on. And I'm watching. And for sure, there's always the guy that, you know, in my mind, goes way too fast. Oh my God, he's swerving. But there's a lot less pole position that I see over here. I see it, of course, but it's not as bad, in my opinion. And it's so funny too when I hear people that, especially those that have never been to Bangkok, and I'm like, oh, I'm living in Bangkok, and they're like, oh my God, I hear that's like it's crazy driving over there, and there's all these accidents, everyone dies on the road. I'm like, no, look it, very few people die on the roads in Bangkok because you're only going 10 kilometers an hour for the most part. The sad reality is the majority of the deaths are in the village, in the province, on motorbikes, and there's a much higher percentage of those who pass away because, or who get killed because of drunk driving. And I mean, I guess that's why there was Mothers Against Drunk Driving. That actually started when I was in high school, and Daniel, who's a new sub, who I mentioned because I'm just so honored that he's a new sub and honored at his behavior. He went all the way back to literally my first video, and he's going all through the videos, and he's commenting on many. So it's kind of nice for me. It's kind of like that, hey, 2 years ago you did this thing that Facebook gives you, and like Daniel's allowing me to do that. Here's the only downside there's no downside to this, but here's what I realized, a data point for you guys. And again, I want to proactively apologize potentially because I'm going back and Daniel's like commenting things and I'm like, Brian, I'll give you a great example. I go back and there's this video that Brian, one of my longtime subs, he commented on like 3 years ago. And I had absolutely no idea. I didn't get notified. I didn't reply to it. I didn't like thumbs up, heart, whatever. And I'm like, well, that's lame, and I thought, well, I'll reply now. And, maybe he'll look at it and go, what a loser. Like, yeah, 1,000-day delta, Mike. Thanks. I'm really feeling special. But it was like, gosh darn it. I didn't respond to these people. And some of them actually gave really good comments. This one woman, she provided a really great response to one video that I get a lot of ridicule over, which is the one where I'm at Tiger Village. I think that's what it's called. Anyway, in Phuket. And so it's always nice to get a little bit of a positive reinforcement on that one versus you complete idiot. I can't believe, nobody has ever given me negative chatter on that video who's actually been there. And so, I'm sorry, but my default setting to that is like, look, you don't have actual knowledge of this thing. And so any data you give me is just your opinion based on what you think is happening there, which to the best of my ability, I researched to make sure that they weren't torturing these animals. So far, my data indicates they're not. I'm not saying they wouldn't be happier out on the range, with basically their 200 square miles eating live gazelle, like their default setting is. So I get that. But, at the end of the day, we're higher on the food chain and we have zoos too, right? And, if you've ever been in an aviary, I look around and I think, okay, like this hawk is going, dude, you are squelching my creation. Do you have any idea how many mice are like 2.5 miles from here that I can see from 5 miles up? So Joe de Clay says, I know what you mean. I'm Tallahassee, and it will get done totally, man. And like the northern parts, like Gainesville and that sort of thing, like right when you exit Georgia coming into Florida, totally can get. I mean, I remember we would drive down in December. Macman says we do fog of mirror. It tells us where you are. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Relative to the comments. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Clay says moved here in 2015. Where do you live now? Oh, cool. And again, like I mentioned before, guys, the nice thing is while this may be cool to realize like where I am and what I'm referring to, the cool part about YouTube is that you guys can go up and down in there. So that is awesome. Oh, Vince. Okay. You're in Singapore. Very good. Good to know. I love Singapore. Vincent, I literally love Singapore. I love everything about it except the cost. But one could argue that the reason I love it so much is because everything costs so much and therefore they're able to deploy what they have, right? So the education system's really decent. And I'm talking about higher education. I don't have any experience with lower, even lower division. It's more like the professors and the master's programs and the research that's done over there in the universities. But everything I research tells me it is top notch, man. And but I mean, the cost of living is high, and there is data that I actually do not dispute at all, and statements that people make, which is Singapore is the most expensive place in the world to live. And I agree, and especially if you want to get a car, because the ante, for that is as far as I know, it's at least $50,000. Maybe Vincent can give us some data on that, but even gets cold near Tampa. Yeah, on the West Coast too. And I like the area of Tampa. Gracie and I were there in like February, March, and it was nice. We were there right on. I think it's like a. So my business, the address of it is, I want to say it's in St. Petersburg, but I think it's like North 4th Street or 4th Street North or something like that. So we went up there. I just wanted to see like where it was, because it's like one of these remote office deals where they like handle everything for you. And I can go in there and like use a desk, but I'm like, okay, look, if I have a laptop, then, I don't need a TV station here in my living room in Thailand to be able to do live streams. So, used to live in Twin Lakes on Apache Parkway, but I'm in Colorado now. Very cool. 26 degrees F in Tallahassee is damn cold. I completely agree. And Keith says, yeah, I don't care for the ocean here. It's totally too cold. I will tell you right now, the warmest I've ever felt water off of the San Diego coast, and I'm talking this is between 1989 and when I left in 2019, 72 degrees. That is it. And it doesn't stay 72 degrees and then like kind of heat up during the day. I mean, that was like the peak of it being pummeled by, photons and infrared for, it was, and this was on July 4th, actually, probably about 10 years ago. We were on my buddy's boat, and man, I was like, okay, I can handle this, but like, on a Tuesday, it's only like $200 for a one way over to somewhere in Florida, where first of all, the beaches are equally as long. I mean, some of the beaches like up near LA, man, you can walk for hours, which I love. And they're really deep, like kind of in Coronado, but man, Florida, I mean, we were down like near Naples when we first got there. This is on the trip that Gracie and I took. And, man, I just looked at that beach and I was like, oh, I could walk this thing. And, when it rains, it's like still warm out. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm waterproof. I mean, my clothes will get wet, but I will dispose of them. I won't throw them away, but I'll, swap it out and put some dry on. And so I can walk in this rain. I mean, hot, warm summer night, day, even rain all day long. Clay says, yeah, occasional frost south of Tampa. That's interesting, Randy. I didn't even realize that. Clay says, try diving here in the Philippines. So I have driven in the Philippines. I haven't driven in So here's the thing about driving and labeling, driving in the Philippines, driving in Thailand. Driving in Bangkok is one thing, and driving in the freeways around here is another thing. And I've done that, and I did not feel comfortable. But it was also a stick shift, so it was weird, like using my left hand. Now, the pedals are in the same thing, but of course, every time I went to like turn left or right, I'd turn the silly, I turned the windshield wipers on, so that was like kind of weird. But man, once I got out of, even in Pattaya, once I got out of Bangkok, it was like very easy. And what I do is I have this mantra in my head. I do the same thing like when we're in Bermuda and I just, in my mind, I just say left, 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 left. Because if I'm like thinking, oh yeah, I'll just like drive like I do back home. No, I need to drive on the left side of the road. And when there's no cars coming the other way, I found out, this is a while ago, I'm quite used to it now, but I found out that it took me, I really had to concentrate on it, because when there's no traffic coming the other way, especially when I would like pull out onto the road, I wouldn't think about it. I would just, it's like I could drive blindfolded almost, the way I drive back home. And so I would get on the right side of and Gracie on the back, she's like, that you're supposed to, I'm like, right, left, 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 or correct, left, left, left. But I've also driven in the Philippines, and Gracie and I rented a car, and we went like from basically one end to the other in Palawan, where there's zero big city on that entire island. We were in Puerto Princesa, and we went all the way up to like El Nido. And it's literally, there's no, there were times where I'm like, dude, you could have like dropped me right here in this car, because it was a rental, so it's fairly new. and we're driving along this road, which is a fine road in the Philippines, and I'm like, this could be Maui. I mean, you talk about greenery. I mean, there are banana trees where the leaves are like 3 times the size of me. And Gracie's like, oh yeah, we used to pull those off the trees, and we used to use them as sleds, and we used to like go down the hills when it would rain, and the mud would get wet, and we would use these as like, little, it would slide down the. I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. She goes, yeah. And then when we were walking to school as a kid, we would pull the banana leaves off and we'd use them as umbrellas. And I'm like, it's just one of those deals, right? I mean, again, I'm biased, but I was just like, oh, you're so cool. Joe says to Randy, I've seen snow 3 times in Tallahassee. One time it snowed 1 to 2 inches, and I was in high school, couldn't go anywhere. I only had a motorcycle. Yeah, that would be kind of weird, right? I mean, I'm sure the whole city just sort of stops, because it's not like they're like, okay, yeah, bring out the snow removal equipment. They don't have that like in the back, like they do where I grew up, certainly south of Boston. Used to drive on EDSA and Metro Manila. Yeah. And Metro Manila is I don't like it at all as far as like driving. I can't rely on, saying, oh yeah, I will meet you at X point. And I just don't, Manila is not for me. Teresa, so good to see you. Thank you. I really appreciate you coming by. You're awesome. Eugene says, I try not to tell people I lived and drove in Boston. Love their traffic circles. They're great, aren't they? I mean, they actually are very efficient. And I can understand why the British sort of said, here's a good way of having a 5-street intersection, kind of thing. Yeah. I mean, and as long as you agree on the way it works, meaning the person inside of the circle has the right of way, not the dude coming in, and there's not always signs. One of the things that my dad always laughs about or just, complains is the fact that back home for me around the Boston area, they have a lot less signage. Whereas, I mean, California is so much newer as far as the roads go and the signage and everything. I mean, there is always a street sign at an intersection, almost always. Whereas, at home, like there just won't be sometimes. And there'll be a street sign. And then, of course, the winter shows up and the plow just goes and it takes it off. And they're like, well, we can't really put this thing in, with the soil so hard. So we'll just wait till spring. I mean, everyone knows what the name of the street is anyway, right? So it's not really designed for tourism or people that don't have Google Maps. Randy says, I can imagine everything coming to a halt with their snow. Totally. I would definitely imagine. They're phasing out the Rotary in Massachusetts. Really? I don't know what they're going to do. Like, I mean, there's 3 of them just in my hometown, and I have a small hometown. That's weird. I guess it would be, street lights, right? And then just like, but that's interesting. Jim says, I was supposed to be at Aspira Hotel next month due to your review on that hotel. So that was actually a really good hotel. And Jim, thank you for that. And thank you for watching, but also thanks for bringing that up, because I'm quite certain you are not the only person that was like, I got plans to stay, obviously Gracie and I mean, right now, let's see, hold on. Today's the 26th, right? So we were going to be in, I think right now our plan was to probably be either back at the farm or just leaving Camotes Islands. Where Rike and V and all that, we're going to, so. And Eddie's in Bullhead City. Yeah, see, there's again, that's another reason why I put the chat up, because my buddy Eddie, he watches me occasionally on Facebook. Tallahassee is just South Georgia, right? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, anyway, so that is Aspira Hotel. If you guys are ever at all interested in hotel recommendations here in Bangkok, I would, be honored to talk with you. Now, obviously, Mike, what's a good hotel in Bangkok? Okay, of the 3,000 that are here, I mean, they're all very, and they compete on price big time. It's much like, I mean, if you've ever like looked at Airbnbs here in Bangkok, that one right after another, it's like $30, $31, $32, $29, $20. I mean, it is so competitive. The other reason too is that they build these, last condo we stayed at, it was 38 stories. We were on the top floor, which I didn't particularly like. I mean, the view was neat and stuff, but, basically how much time was I spending? And of course, it was a newer building, which means the balcony was really small, and half of it was taken up by the washer as well as the outdoor air conditioning units. So it wasn't like I could sit out there and hang out. Whereas here, the balcony's big enough, and the air conditioning units, they're those ones that like you've always seen in Thailand. But they're not super loud, so I can hang out on my balcony. I mean, it's probably about 3 meters wide, and it overlooks the pool. You know, like in for our for our pigeon cam. And you know, it's kind of nice, but I'm on the 10th floor, and so like that means like when I get home, I don't have to wait, because when you're on the 38th floor on the top, regardless of the number, when you're on the top floor, then there's a high likelihood that everyone else in the elevator is going, and they're going to stop at floors in between, which will delay you getting home, right? And you know, kind of like when you get home, you want to get. When I get home, I want to get home. And so I've just always been like, okay, this is neat. Like, but the novelty for me wore off pretty quick. The one nice thing, it was one of those buildings that I actually would have preferred the pool all the way on the top floor. But it was one of those buildings that I think because it was so high, they put the building like on top of, or so they put the pool rather like on top of the parking structure. So it was like, you know, 6 floors up. So it was nice. But the top floor in this building, it had, you know, like a grassy area. And I don't know if I ever did a video from up there, but yeah, Spiro Hotel, I want to say it's on Soi 8, on the east side, basically, of Sukhumvit, or north, depending upon how you look at the curve of it, the curvature of Sukhumvit once it's up there. But yeah, it was pretty near the Nana station on BTS, and it was you know, it was nice. I mean, it was small, and I was only there one night, but it was literally perfect because it was nice and quiet. It was close to everything, and I could, you know, get on and off the BTS and go in and out of the. For me, I was by myself, right? So it's the most economical to go BTS to Airport Rail Link, and then Airport Rail Link into Suvarnabhumi. So, Randy says yes, downtown St. Pete. Yeah. That was the 4th Street there. Destin, Florida is still my favorite. Destin, I've never seen that. I'll look that up on the map. Thank you. One of the things I'm looking at doing actually is probably buying some land in Florida, for mainly to have a real address, but secondarily, it's like, okay, well, I could either like rent a place and have an address there if I ever need to go back or if I want to go back, but also to claim residency for the tax benefit. But again, I mean, if I were to move back to the United States, I mean, it is the only choice for me. It is the only state I would go to. And it's the West Coast is the only side. I really like the Keys, but unfortunately, I mean, Key West is very densely populated and it is a huge tourist thing. So I don't particularly like that anymore. I first started going there in 86, 87. And so as you might imagine, when I went back there in 2018, I think it was either 2017 or 2018. It was very different, right? But Marathon Key, which is basically in the middle, right? So there's Key West on one end, obviously, and then there's Key Largo on the other. And Marathon is kind of in the middle. And it's built up. I mean, it's got like, you know, Home Depots and groceries and all this. But it's still got like some reasonably priced, meaning, you know, for all beachfront is expensive, but it's got some fairly reasonably priced beachfront in Marathon. But Bahia Honda Key is absolutely one of my more favorite places. But the big, deep, and long beaches of the Gulf Coast of Florida, man, I love those. And I can go down to those things and I can just sit there at the water's edge and I can stare or close my eyes and lay there at the waves crashing over, man. And I can do that literally all day long. I can do that until I can't do that. And it is one of the more peaceful sounds to me. Like when I'm feeling imperfect, or I'm, you know, restless, irritable, and discontent, or I'm whatever I am, I'm not living the dream, then man, if I can get to the beach, there is a 90% chance I can feel better, you know. And so that's the thing that I miss the most, living here in Bangkok. Now I'm living in Bangkok. My idea was I'm going to live in Bangkok, so it would be real easy for me to get everywhere else pretty easily. Meaning I can, like, within, I think it takes me about 10-15 minute walk to a BTS station. And then from there, you know, if you know anything about Bangkok, once you're on the BTS, you can almost get anywhere. And if you have Grab, you can get anywhere. Is very centrally located, and plus, from Suvarnabhumi Airport, I mean, for less than $100, I can get to many places that I would want to go. I think I mentioned before that before all of this went crazy and all the airlines shut down, Gracie was back in the Philippines, and I was like, oh, and I was just flipping through like Google Flights, and I noticed it was like $29 to get to Da Nang, so I'm like, dude, I'll go over there for the weekend. But then things sort of changed, and I lost the ability to do that. You're brave because Randy says variety of food in Singapore is great, but the cost is a downer. It can be distracting. I will tell you that I've stayed in Airbnbs, which were $100 a night, which again for Thailand, $100 a night is expensive. That meaning you're going to get a really, really nice place. And in Singapore, it was outside of sort of the city center. I had to take the is it MRT or MTR? I can't remember what it is in Singapore, but regardless, the BTS, their their rail link system, basically, which is outstanding there, by the way. And many of the cars are autonomous. It's completely, there's no humans in the front driving it. I was like, oh, you guys are my heroes. This is amazing. And it's on time, and it is clean, and it's just, I love it there. So that was like, but I've also stayed at the Marina Bay Sands, right, which is like kind of the iconic hotel of Singapore with the 3 towers and the giant surfboard on top, or the giant tongue, depending upon, I guess, what angle you're at. And that was there. I was there for a conference, so work was paying, and it was ridiculously expensive. But I wasn't so distracted by it because it was kind of like, oh, I'll just submit an expense report. So that was okay. I was there for a Microsoft conference. And it was one of those deals where it was sort of towards the end of my vacation time here in Southeast Asia, during the December, January time when I would come over here regularly. And I said, okay, well, I can come home on this Friday, or I can just, basically take 3 or 4 more days. And of course, I'll be at a Microsoft conference, so I don't need to take vacation for that. And it worked out well because it was actually very relevant and in English. And so it was pretty cool. And it was also very educational to see, obviously that you're going to present like know your audience, right? And Microsoft is pretty astute at knowing their audience. And so they were presenting stuff that they believed was very relevant to the technologists in Singapore at the time. So a lot of Azure cloud, and Dell, it was amazing to me. Like they're sitting there with like a physical server. And my impression of over here is no one's like, oh, yeah, we're going to spend a ton of money on infrastructure and build a data center and shove tons of computers in it. They're like, no. They really respect Microsoft, by the way, over here, more so than Amazon. But like, no, we're either going to Azure or we're going to AWS or we're going to Alibaba. We are not building our own data center. That is ridiculous over here. And so... Brian says Nana Hotel, of course. Yeah, I have been in there. I've never stayed there. I stayed on the other side when I first got to Bangkok at the JW. But I've heard that the Nana has gone down in quality, but I don't know that for sure. For all I know, no, Mike, they redid all the rooms, 2 years ago. You just haven't seen it. So, but yeah, I mean, depending upon what you're in Bangkok for, right, that can be super convenient. So. Clay says, I booked at Bare Feet Resort in mid-June for 2 days for a visa run. Ah, nice. I'll have to check that out. Jürgen says, Nana has too many roaches. Yeah, I'm not really. Do not come back. Yeah, absolutely. Right. I know. Joe says you can get a 1-bedroom, 1-bath place in Tallahassee for $50,000. Yeah, so condo. Yeah, I mean, again, that's incredibly well. We have a word for 1-bedroom, 1-bath condos that only cost $50,000 when you're living in San Diego. We call those free. Yeah, just to have an address. And so I was like, okay, I can get a 1/4 acre land for like $2,500. And there's some that are in the middle of nowhere. There's others that are like 5 or 6 plots down the street, there's a house, which means there's electrical all the way down. And I'm like, well, I mean, I could, I want to make sure it's got the proper sewers, or perk test it, make sure I could sell it. It wouldn't just be like I can sell it for a parking lot. But if there's houses around there and you can put electricity in there, it's like, well, maybe a tiny house or I mean, the houses that are there are these single story, fairly rectangular, not a whole lot of, landscaping is being done, but they're new, right? And the people keep them up, and they have concrete driveways, and all the power is underground usually, and so it's kind of cool. And if I've known anything over the last, well, let's see, so 35 4 years that I've been going in and out of Florida is that every time I go back, I say to myself, man, last time I was here, I should have bought some real estate because the middle of nowhere becomes an actual neighborhood, right? I mean, it's just, they're not making any more of it. MRT, thank you very much, Vincent. Hong Kong is MTR. Nice. Absolutely. Yeah. And the Hong Kong transportation system, I was equally as impressed. Very efficient. I was amazed, though, at how much walking I still had to do. Like when you're going from one line to the other, and you're underground the whole time, and you're basically still on the system. Unlike here in Bangkok, where like you go from BTS to MRT, and they're like, oh yeah, this is an interchange. It's like no, dude, I got to walk outdoors past Terminal 21 downstairs, and I got to use a completely separate card. I got to have a different payment system. I got to have a different RFID. And I'm like, I get it. It's two different companies. But from a user perspective, I would prefer it to be a little bit more user focused, which is like I have one card. Because, I mean, if you watch any videos on Hong Kong on YouTube, I would say at least 50% of all the videos I've ever seen on Hong Kong, that for people that are like going there and they're giving you recommendations, they all say, when you get to the airport, when you land, go get an octopus card because you can buy everything with that. It's actually more ubiquitous, really, than the rabbit card is here. I mean, your rabbit card, I use mine, and I use it at 7-Eleven sometimes, but I also can use it at even like mom and pops sometimes. Usually those are cash. But man, the octopus card, yeah, you're living the dream if you got that thing. I felt like really advanced. Now, I have not been to China. I've heard that if you like cruise over the river and you go from Hong Kong into Shenzhen, then you either use your phone or you drive back to Hong Kong and do it the way they did 20 years ago when Hong Kong thought they were modern. But I have not experienced China yet. And, I guess there's the debate of, well, you don't want to now, and they've always lied to us or whatever. And it's like, yeah, look, I'm not going to defend them. And their government is significantly different model than the U.S. And I prefer the U.S. model, even though I haven't directly experienced the China model. But, there are some things in China that I would definitely like to go see. And experience. I would really like to experience this whole, you use your phone to pay for everything, like everything, that would be a really, really fun experience for me. Clay says Bare Feet Resort. Okay, cool. Good to see you. Hello, Denmark. Awesome. Kastrup, is that how you want me to say it? I never like do that well. I never necessarily pronounce those very well. Clay Ramsey, right? Like that's easy. Randy Weiss, Pal Joey. But, when they're kind of abbreviated, I'm like, wait, what? Like, what is the one that I pronounced the two end letters are YT, and I pronounced it I pronounced like yitty. But it's like he sent me a message. He's like, no. The two end letters YT, that means, Rackman. Right. And I thought it was Rackmanity. And he's like, no, it's Rackman. The YT is YouTube. And I'm like, makes sense to me. Where was I asleep? So anyway, good morning. Glad you're here. Thanks so much. I really appreciate it. What time is it in Denmark? I can never remember. It is 10 a.m. almost here, 9:53 a.m. I can never remember how many. 8 hours behind? No, it can't be 2 a.m. there, can it? If it is, thank you very much for swinging by. I really appreciate it. Hopefully I'll keep you either awake or my dulcet tones will allow you to quickly fall asleep, much like we were on the beach. Where? On the west coast of Florida. Randy says, Singapore rail system is the best. Can go anywhere. Clean, safe, and cheap. And here's what's amazing to me about that, Randy, is I'm like, okay, obviously, all of Singapore is planned 100%. They're not like, well, we didn't think about this like 30 years ago, but maybe we should put in. No, they thought about everything 60 years ago, And so what amazes me is how, okay, so the statement that you make, Randy, Singapore rail system is the best, can go anywhere, clean, safe, cheap. I would submit to you could make that exact same statement 20 years ago. And in 20 years, they've absolutely expanded it and you can go more places, right? And so maybe it wasn't the best back then, but it is you can literally go anywhere. And there are, lines, right? Like the green line, red line, whatever. And then they have like this that come from the airport. And then they have like an express that just goes into and out of the airport, kind of like airport rail link, but people also use it to commute, in between, right? But I just heard that not only do they have train lines everywhere, MRT trains or MTRs everywhere, but they're putting a new one that basically just goes in a circle around all of the others. And I'm like, man, they do not mess around. I mean, they're like, and thank goodness, right? Because I mean, the price of I don't know what they call it. Maybe you can you can let me know. But the permit, if you will, the permission to buy a car, right? And I don't know what that's called, but at the end of the day, what I hear from my buddies here who know about Singapore, who have done business over here a long time, is that it's 50,000, or it's basically the ticket price is like 40,000, and I believe this is Singapore dollars, but for the sake of argument, it's about the U.S. I mean, it's sort of it follows it. But it's definitely not, 1-to-1 with the U.S. dollar for sure. I think it's like 1 point. I could Google it, of course, but in my mind, I think it's like 1.2. I think it's 1.3 maybe. Anyway, and I think they they auction those sort of thing, or people will, or they'll bid them up. It's like, yeah, the government is only willing, saying, hey, look, these are baseline $28,000, $40,000, whatever. But people are like, no, dude, I'm wealthy. I really want a car. Like, I don't care what it costs. And then they go to a vending machine. I don't know if you guys have ever seen these, or have been to Singapore. And because I went right by it, I'm like, we are stopping. I have to go touch this thing. I don't believe it's real. It is literally a vending machine for automobiles. The whole wall is glass, and they have cars in there that are like parked. And you go for a thing. And I believe the paradigm, if I remember it correctly, is you basically put your credit card in or something. You prove to them that you actually have the ability to buy a car like on the spot. And you have the ability to test drive it for 7 days. And if you don't like it, you can drive it back. And then it goes back in the vending machine. But I'm like, oh, my God. I mean, that's, I used to think that God invented cocaine, to prove to people that you have way too much money. No. I think Buddha invented the car Coke machine, the car vending machine, to say, look, dude, you've got way too much. I mean, I'm surprised they're not all over the place in like Dubai. But I was just like, oh, that is a quality problem. If the worst thing you got going on, what are you going to do today? I got to go buy a car. Who doesn't say that in the United States? I hate buying cars, to the point where I literally bought the exact same car 3 times in a row because I just wanted to go back to the dealer and be like, dude, it's been 2 years, 3 years, whatever. Give me exactly this. And in fact, and then it comes out. And of course, in my mind, I'm like, well, I have to test drive this because that's what you do. But by the time I got to my 4th one from that Acura, from that manufacturer, the guy's like, oh, yeah, want to go for a test? No. I said, look, I want to sit in it. I want to make sure it's got the room or whatever. And I want to make sure it has satellite radio. But other than that, it's a brand new Acura. I mean, what's it going to do? Break down? Do I need to visually inspect the engine or literally kick the tires? No. I mean, this thing either works, or I'm basically bringing it back and you're going to fix it for free for my entire time owning it. So, I mean, I was just like, oh, I don't want to do this. So to be able to go to a Coke machine, to be able to go to a vending machine, I mean, that is, that is a quality problem. Absolutely. Pal Joey says, can't get out to the beach with you. Yeah, I get it, man. So I'm left with my 6 DJ8S KT88 or 6 DJ8s and the KT88s. John Coltrane. Nice. Enjoy the sun and the water and the babes, but wear your mask. Absolutely. I'll go to the beach and I'll wear my masks. It's aged, of course. Indeed, it has. Jorgen says, like Banyan Tree. Yeah, all rooms are suites and near the park. Banyan Tree, if you guys don't know, it's one of the more famous rooftop bar hotels that has a rooftop bar here in Bangkok. And indeed, it is very luxurious. It's one of those things that if you've never been to Thailand and you're from a U.S. city where, let's say for the sake of argument, the average hotel price in your city is at least $300, right? So San Diego, San Francisco is more like $500, depending upon. But the point is that you come over here and you're and you go to the Banyan Tree, which if you're living in Thailand, it's expensive. It's even expensive if you're, on vacation sometimes. But you go in there and you're like, okay, wait a minute. So I get a 5. I mean, it is I don't know if it's 6-star, but it's 5-star. and the customer service is epic, right? And you're like, okay, this is only this is only 10,000 baht a night, right? Which is my rent, my monthly rent. Basically, it's 12,000 here, but that's how much it is per night there. But I mean, shoot, I paid more to stay in Vegas, which, if you guys know me at all, I've talked about this before, I dislike Vegas. But even there, like I would stay at Palazzo, right? And those are all suites. But I mean, they'd be like $299 a night, and then a $40 resort fee, and then you'd have to pay tax on top of that, which I think is 17% in Vegas. And so Banyan Tree, I mean, you're over here for the first time and you're like, okay, this is amazing. I'm getting treated like a king, and thus you are a 2-week millionaire. I have not been to Macau, Randy, and I thought about going. The main reason I wanted to go is to go on the bridge. If you guys don't know, the world's longest bridge that is actually tunnel bridge is between Hong Kong and Macau. And in fact, we went on like a aerial tram ride kind of thing when we were in Hong Kong. If you guys search my channel, like if you go to the channel and then on the right, like not all the way at the top in YouTube, but to the right, kind of like below the beginning picture, there's another magnifying glass, and that allows you to just search that channel. And if you type in Hong Kong, then you'll see a couple of our videos that we took when we were there about taking the aerial tramway. And I'll tell you, from the air, we were overlooking that huge bridge, that freeway. But the problem is that, I mean, you kind of got to get permits. I mean, you're essentially going into another country, kind of. I mean, it's another special administrative region, right? But Macau, as far as I know, Randy, I can't remember, but I believe it's got Sands properties, right? Which is, if you don't know, I mean, the Sands company, obviously they own the Marina Bay Sands, or they license that. But Sands Convention Center and many, many other resorts in Vegas. What I didn't realize until just probably 3-4 years ago is that there's like 5 companies that basically own everything on the Vegas Strip. I mean, the big resorts, right? And so it's MGM is one of them. And I actually can't remember them right now. Maybe you guys know. Maybe if Eddie's still here. Eddie's very versed in, but there's Bally's, right? Which is like, I think, part of Bally's. And then there's a whole bunch of Bally's properties. I can't remember the names of them, but it's kind of like I can remember General Motors, but I can't remember the names of all of the, kind of thing. So Vincent says it is cashless in China now. They use WeChat's and Alipay's QR code in mobile phones for all payments. Really cashless. Yeah. So I have Alipay. And the only time I've ever used WeChat is when I've interfaced with Chinese people. Like I was at a conference in Detroit that was put on by Alibaba. Jack Ma was there, who is absolutely my hero. But literally half the conference was people from China who came over to figure out, okay, like what do these Americans need? I mean, it was amazing. They're just like so hungry for our business, and they were listening and listening and listening. It was really, really impressive. But of course, I don't know if you've experienced this, but like a true Chinese person, right? I mean, one of the first things you talk about is give me your WeChat. And then, and then you just start talking on WeChat. But yeah, I mean, there's everything through those apps. I mean, you can literally do everything. I mean, it's kind of like how Grab, was like the Uber of over here. A lot of people would label it that. But now you can do a ton of stuff. So, and by that, I mean, like if I go to the Grab app and, a lot of people be like, okay, call me a Grab, right? Well, I mean, right now I can do food. I can have anything delivered. Like if I need to take this microphone and say, oh yeah, my buddy Eddie down the street, like in another condo, I need to give this to him. Then I just do Grab delivery, and the guy shows up and he drives from here to Eddie's place, gives him the thing, Eddie signs for it, and then I get charged however much it costs him to deliver it. Or I'm like, hey, I need you to go to my insurance company and pick up some papers and bring it to me. So he's like, okay, great. This is what it's going to cost to go there. So, $4 later, I got this like personal courier service. It's just amazing. And then there's groceries, and then there's packages, which you can get money packages. And then there's car, and there's bike, which is motorbike basically. And I understand why that's not available, or not common, at least. I don't think it's even available really in the United States. People just don't get on the back of a motorbike with a helmet and go from point A to point B. You're taking a car. And then there's Grab Assistant, and then they have Grab hotels, and they have and then they have Drive For, which means you can basically sign up. Which, I mean, a lot of the guys that were basically just these motorbike taxi guys that would sit on the side of the road, with their orange vests around here, they've signed up for Grab, and you will see them. Like I was in a mall the other day, and they just literally sit. They're the only people that are allowed to sit in in the restaurants, because you can only do like takeaway, you can only do takeout. You can go into the restaurant and order, but then they have the chairs like spread out, like, at least 2 meters all around. And the only guys sitting in there are the guys on their phone with the grab vest, and they're just waiting for someone to order that, and then they go up and then they grab. I mean, so if you think that like the delivery service, it is so fast here, because no matter where you order, I mean, if you order it from like a mom and pop place, then the guy will be in the neighborhood. But if you order it from one of these sort of larger, like MK restaurants or something like this, or I mean, okay, great example, McDonald's, KFC, or Burger King, there are like 6 guys like just sitting in there they're waiting for the order, and then bam, it shows up. So I mean, it's a pretty impressive, again, from a customer service perspective. It's awesome. 5 a.m. in Denmark. Okay, cool. Well, thanks. I appreciate you coming by. That's more that's early. Morning, Robin. Good to see you. I am well. I'm very well, and I hope you are as well. So Robin, you're in Denmark too. I mean, okay. So wait, you guys are Japanese. Don't you all know each other? No, right? It's not like one of those. But of course, as you might guess, I'm curious. Do you guys know each other? Right? Because you're both from Denmark. I'm not saying you should. I'm just kind of curious. Oh, yeah. You're from the United States of America. Do you know Bill from Nebraska? No, I mean, okay, I get it. But Ron says they have car vending machines and internet buying and delivery to your house now here in the USA. Okay, Ron, where the hell is the car vending machine in the U? Oh, my God. Ron, I know exactly where it is. Oh, dude, it's right off the freeway in Los Angeles. Is that the only one? Or do you guys know of places that are other? That's crazy. I totally forgot about that. Every time I would drive up to LAX, right there on the 405, right? Or the 5. One of those. I think it's the 405. You look off to your left, and there's this giant glass-walled building. Yeah, you're right. And I totally... have you, or do you know anyone who's ever bought a car from that? I want to talk with them, and I want to learn about that experience. That must have just been, I mean, it must have just felt so cool, right? I mean, there's got to be that's got to be 51% of the reason why you do that, because I mean, I do know, as I have friends that have done this. I've never done this personally, but the way that you buy a Tesla is like online, and then it just like shows up, right? I mean, so that's pretty amazing customer service. I mean, they don't have dealers, they cut out the middlemen, if you will, and took all the profits for themselves, which, I mean, that's the experience. I hate it. I hate the experience. And I mean, if you were to say to somebody, oh, what does your brother do? Or let's say you're sitting there talking to a girl, and she says, hey, do you have any buddies that like you can set me up with, right? Let's say that, and you say to them, oh yeah, what is he? Oh yeah, he's got this. He goes education, did this. He lives here, and of course, what does he do for a living? And you say, oh, he's a car salesman. I mean, right? It's like, or if you say used car salesman, for some reason, which used car salesmen make more money than regular car salesmen, which traditionally, depending upon the market, but it's like, you say that, and there's this stigmatism, right? Like you're a liar, like your profession is lying to people, if you like sell cars somehow. And I hate it. Hate the process. It should be so removed. Started to do car sales like that here too. Top of the line, pick it up or get it delivered out of the machine / display unit. No car salesman. Dude, that is awesome. I'm like, I gotta start traveling to more places that do that. That's pretty rad. Okay, so Vincent says certificate of entitlement, the COE, which is basically the permission to buy a car in Singapore, open for bidding every month. That's right. I thought, yeah, okay. I think I remember hearing that. Maybe it was. I don't know if it was every month that I heard. I believe that's how they do it now. But I could have. I mean, it must have been an article that was old that I read. But I was like, oh, you can only do that like January, February, March, and then at the end, the rest of the year. That was kind of weird. But bidding price is usually between $30,000 and $80,000, depending upon the category of car. This certificate will enable you to buy a car. Isn't that amazing? I mean, can you imagine if even like, let's say for the sake of argument, there's too many cars in Los Angeles. You guys might dispute that, but my experience is there's too many cars in Los Angeles. Certainly when I want to get from point A to point B, there are, and they're in front of me, all of them. But even if it was like 3,000, imagine if there was like a certificate of entitlement process in Los Angeles. They said, well, you can own this car, but you got to bid between, bid even between $1,000 and $3,000. I can't even imagine. Now, most people that live in Singapore that own cars, they're not buying the bottom of the line Kia. Okay, um, it's wealthy. I mean, it is. Yeah, it's very very wealthy, and so I can understand that they just roll it in. Much like, I mean, I bought cars in Mexico, and it's not uncommon where you like buy the car and you buy the insurance policy like right there at the dealer, which I think is so efficient. I believe that you do the same thing here in Thailand. Joe says, I want to see a car get stuck like chips in that. Yeah, dude, what do? Do you like shake the thing? Where's my Vespa? Oh my God, that Ferrari's mine, Oh, my Lexus. And it like goes sideways. That would be funny to see. I'm surprised no one's made a modern day King Kong movie where he's like pissed and he's like shaking the building. I want that Corolla right friggin' now. I'm starving for this Corolla. That's funny, dude. That's funny. That's awesome. Clay says 100 USD is 142 Singapore dollars. So yeah, 1.44. I remember that. And in my mind, that's right. I remember saying, that's about 1.5. So just shake the machine. See, absolutely. Bob Sears, hi, Mike, coming in late. What up? Hey, Bob, how you doing over there? Bobby's from back east there. So good to see you there, Bobby. Oh, I miss that accent. I'll tell you something. Being in radio when I was back in Boston, one of the things that I worked at and you are schooled at, you are instructed to do, is not really have an accent because you want to. I mean, and I absolutely have an accent, but it's not like the draw that you get from a lot of people that are, say, in the South, or it's not like you're talking like you're from Southie. I mean, if you're from Southie and you get your pocketbook and you give me my car keys, then So, I mean, and even that, you can probably tell I'm faking it. I mean, that's not actually how I talk. My Boston accent really didn't stick. But God, I love that accent. I just think it's so awesome. When I hear, I almost just said Mark Wahlberg. When I hear him talk, man, I am just like, he's like kind of a hero back there. I mean, because he has Wahlburgers. If you guys don't know, he has a chain of like hamburger stores. And they're pretty nice. I mean, it's I will say that in Boston, in the Logan Airport, in Boston's main international airport, there's a Wahlburgers, and then there's like a takeout place, and then there's a sit down place. And so I don't know if they like provide wait service or waiters or waitresses, that sort of thing, in all of the Wahlburgers. But there's one in my hometown, and it's right down by the water. And I mean, it's probably 2, maybe 3 times more expensive than like Burger King. Yeah, probably. Because I mean, what's a Whopper? Like $3, something like that. Yeah. So I think one of his burgers is like $10, $11. They're good. Every time I've had one, they're good. But yeah, man, his South Boston accent is just fantastic. Pal Joey, Bob says 11 p.m. at home, East Boston. There, that's what you call the EB. Ain't that right there, Bobby? And if you hate the way I'm doing that, just to joke around, please, I apologize. It's just that I love going back home and listening to people. My buddy Rob, his father grew up in South Boston, and now he's lived a little bit further south in one of the suburbs. And the way he would talk was just so entertaining. Now, Michael, here's what you're going to do. I know you're going to go out there to that UCLA at San Diego place. And you're going to be making so much money as an engineer. You're going to have, Michael, listen to this. You are going to have a vet for every day of the week and a SAIDS for the weekends. And I was like, oh my God, dude, you're so totally awesome. So anyway, I know the accent's bad because I've kind of lost it. I'm more Thai now, really. Val Joey says car vending machine in New York City. Not sure where, but it's advertised. Ah, interesting. I guess I can understand that. I mean, shoot, the parking garages, right, in New York City were, they had movement, right? I mean, so it's probably, they're just like, oh, yeah, let's just refit this. We're moving cars around, all of it, and let's just like allow people to see it and, take them out. So that's actually kind of a good idea. Joe says, I could just guess trying to buy a car in one of those machines, trying to prove I'm not a robot. to do the CAPTCHA. Choose sidewalk. Ding, 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 ding. Choose cat. Ding, right? Asia Unscripted, yo to you, my friend. How are you doing, man? Good to see you. Thank you so much for coming by. I really appreciate it. Asia Unscripted is really cool. If you guys, as far as I know, you do daily, if not every other day, videos about walking around in Cebu. And the cool thing about that is because, of course, my default setting now is to do videos from indoors live with you guys from Bangkok, right? And there's another guy who I actually think has a really kind of cool channel if you're into the whole, hey, I wonder what it looks like outside in that city. Direction Bangkok, if you want to look him up. He lives literally like a block away from me, and he just goes outside and he walks around. He's a big walker. And same here. But for some reason, I just don't feel, I don't know why I don't want to. Like, I mean, it's just one of those deals. I guess maybe I'm kind of a sheeple in that sense where it's like, well, nobody else is going outside. I mean, and trust me, there are people going outside. I went outside the other day. And yeah, I want to talk about that in a second, actually. Trying to prove I'm not a robot. So anyway, good to see you, man. Right on. Oh, dude, Charles Laquadera. Okay, so Brian and I are probably the same age, if you know who Charles Laquadera is. Charles Laquadera was one of the most famous DJs in Boston, for sure. And I want to say he was on BCN, right? Yeah, I think he was on BCN. Who's Eats Boston? Bobby's from Southie and Dot. And if you guys don't know what Dot is, that's basically Dorchester. So Bob and Brian, you guys can chatter up there. You guys can head over to the Packy and get yourself a rack of beers, and then maybe go down the harbor, grab some lobster. Oh, where are my car keys, Bobby? They're in your mother's pocketbook there. All right. My talents are not showing up. I get it. Pal Joey says, I used to work for a mafia-run Buick dealer outside Chicago. Brought them to O'Hare as an escape route to Italy post-action sequences. 1962. Notes from the undergrad. Aha, very good. Nice. My buddy, I had a great friend in high school, and his dad worked for Buick. And it was interesting. I mean, that was the luxury auto. Well, no, sorry, Cadillac, right? But I mean, that was like that was a really well-respected, quality American automobile for years. I mean, my dad, I remember, he was an engineer, and so and there were a lot less of them back then. There were no computer consultants. When people were like, "Oh, what's your dad do?" I was like, "Oh, he's a computer consultant." They'd be like, "What? What does that mean?" Computers. But yeah, he drove Buicks for a while, and it would be one of those paradigms where he'd buy like a year or two old Buick, get rid of the depreciation and have the car for a while. But yeah, a Buick was like, oh yeah, he's doing he's doing pretty good. I mean, you're not driving some ridiculous thing like a Rolls Royce. Of course, like I actually don't know why I just said that. Judging myself, I suppose, which is good. Brian says, oh, New York City now, but yeah, I grew up in Eastie. Yeah, so Brian grew up around Boston area. The King Leeway. Good to see you. I really appreciate that. Yeah, hey, Mike, you ready for another 9-hour live stream? So I was, I think, I can't remember exactly, but I think I was either over on your channel or I was on Rob's channel during one of his live streams and you were chiming in there. So I don't know how you came here, but thank you very much because I believe you're a fairly new subscriber. So thanks a lot. Really appreciate it. Agent Scripted says, had to spend my birthday here in your live. So wait, is it your birthday right now? Oh, dude. I mean, should we all sing? Perhaps if the demo had a little bit more female attendance, we might do that. But I think all of us guys, probably the answer is like, Mike, no, stop. But anyway, happy birthday. That's really awesome. It is I don't know if you've experienced this because he's over in the Philippines. But like if you have a family member and they turn 60, that is turning 60 in the Philippines, in my experience, is the equivalent of turning 100 in the United States. Like it is a gargantuan milestone. Like if you're like, oh yeah, my grandfather's like 80 or my parents are in their 80s, you're like, yeah, that makes sense. That's pretty cool. to the point where if you were to like, oh yeah, my friend, he died at like 63, you'd be like, dude, what? My God, what did he have? Cancer? How did he possibly die that young? Whereas you make it to 60 in the Philippines, and I want to say, well, it depends on how many lechons you have. But usually if you're throwing a party and you're 60 years old and you have a 4 lechon party, then that's a big deal. So anyway, happy birthday, my friend. That's cool. Asia Unscripted is, his production quality in his videos eclipses mine. But he's sort of around the same. I think you have over 1,000 subs now, right? We can double check, but he's very close. So anyway, go over there, check out his channel. It's pretty good. Edwin rather. I'm sorry. Hey guy, first time on board. Good to see you. I've totally seen your name. So I don't know whether you've commented on my videos before and watched them. Either way, thank you very much. I'm glad you're here. Bob and Brian making sure each other is safe. Yep, absolutely. BCN, WBCN Boston 104 FM. BCN was really, really cool. There were some just epic stations. I'm sure all of you guys, well, maybe not. Maybe some of you are younger, but for me and a lot of my friends my age, like, you remember a couple of things. I remember a couple of things. I remember my first phone number where you would give it to your friends in the neighborhood. You would just give them the last 4 digits. I mean, there was only one prefix. There was only one exchange, right? And there was only one zip code for the entire state. Zip code, area code, and then they split it up. But you remember your phone number. I remember my phone number, and remember the radio stations that I grew up with, because it was like, and I don't know whether that's just because I'm like a radio guy and that's what I was into. I mean, I guess maybe some people would be like, oh man, I remember my phone number and I remember all of the types of airplanes, right? Like, I mean, there were some kids that could like look up and they were really into airplanes. Seems like when I was younger, there were kids that were into dinosaurs too. I don't know. That was like, I don't know. I mean, the past is interesting, but I'm kind of looking towards the future. So the whole dinosaur thing, I mean, again, I thank them for their oil. Without them, we wouldn't have a whole lot to drill for. But I don't know. I was never really into that. Kelly's on Revere Beach. We didn't call it Revere. We called it Severe. But one of the first radios, I'm trying to think. Hold on. The first commercial radio station that I was on. Yeah, it was 101.7 WFNX Phoenix Radio, Lynn, Boston. It was one of the first few stations that was playing music that nobody had ever heard of. Like, they were playing music that wasn't cool at the time. They were playing alternative or new wave or whatever. But yeah, and their transmitter was lousy, so it was hard to get. But yeah, so I've totally been up Revere a couple times. Kelly's, oh yeah, absolutely. You know what? I think that there's a Kelly's in a lot of places though, because I think there's a Kelly's in Hull in Nantasket Beach. With the Shamrock, of course. It's got to have the, yeah. My childhood. Pal Joey says, all black. I have a feeling Electras, right? Yeah, black leather interior. They had all of them. Do you guys remember the super old Buicks that actually, because the newer ones, right? They just like basically put a silver sticker, not literally, but it was just like an emblem on the side, and it showed like 4 holes. But like, years and years ago, I want to say maybe it was the 40s, maybe 50s, maybe it went into the 60s. I'm not sure. But it literally had like 4, I think they were the part of the intake manifold, 4 holes on the fenders. And I remember my dad telling me that, like, you could get a 2-holer or a 3-holer or a 4-holer. And if you had a 4-holer, then you had a car that, I mean, because the engines back then were the size of 6 people. But I think that they had actual hole. I think if I remember correctly, they had actual holes in the fenders. And yeah, but the Electra, the Electra was absolute. And I'm sure that your buddies in Chicago had all black. Yeah, absolutely. Happy birthday from Illigan City. Awesome, man. Or Illigan, probably. You can sing, but someone might report the stream on YouTube. But boom, haha, very cool. How true. I'm at 917. Awesome, man. Very cool. That guy. Good to see you. Thank you, TG. If you're on YouTube, you will notice a different tint to your name, along with a very cool wrench to the right side of it. So, because I trust you as far as getting people that are not part of the Cool Kids table or shouldn't be at the Cool Kids table. Oh, dude, you used to give it. So that's awesome. So Brian, if you see Logan 72890, that was how you gave the first, few few numbers, right? You did it sort of like alphanumerically. Yeah, I remember doing that. Actually, I remember doing it, but then quite soon thereafter, we just did the last four, or we gave like a full, number. Like, I mean, in our town, if you met someone from the town over, then you would give them, the first three and then the last four. But if you were just your friends, like in school, hey, what's your phone number? Oh, 5547. Like, okay. There is a maximum of 10,000 phones that will ever be allowed in my city. So, EB, East Bridgewater. You know what? I knew that, and I remembered that from the last time you were here. I am so sorry. I forgot. Yeah, East Bridgewater. Brian says to Bob, had a brother that was a resident of Bridgewater. Yeah, so there's, how many Bridgewaters are there? Is there like, I know there's East Bridgewater, obviously, and then there's Bridgewater, but is there South Bridgewater too? Or is it North Bridgewater? Is it North Bridgewater and East Bridgewater? I couldn't remember. There was, because if I mentioned this to you guys, Bridgewater was one of our customers for the company that I worked for when I was in high school, the computer company that did software for municipalities. And so our customers were cities. So we had Hingham and Norwell and, all this. Thank you, Restream, for acknowledging me for my 100 messages. Thank you guys for participating. It's very cool. That guy says KROQ Pasadena was the new wave station in my neck of the woods. So when I learned about stations, and because that kind of music when it first came out, like wasn't cool, like it wasn't basically top 40, right? So it wasn't, or album oriented rock. If you guys know what that is, it's kind of like, basically just the rock stations that you would listen to growing up. AOR was the title of the format. And that was pretty much the most sort of popular in my areas. I mean, nationwide, for years, the number one format was country music because those people would listen the longest. It wasn't like the whole dentist, listening, or the dentist office, right? It was just like these guys listened like all day in their trucks. Baby, oh, you make me want to roll my windows down and cruise. I love that song. I think it's really those crossover songs, man, that came from like country music over into sort of pop rock. There's a few of them that just, I don't know. I like listening to them when I drive the car. I'll tell you right now, I think the easiest way for me to increase the speed of my car and when I was younger and possibly get a ticket was is when the Back in Black album came out on cassette. And I was able to crank that up on the Alpine in the Scamp. But yeah, so KRQ, that guy, I mean, that was legendary, absolutely legendary. I mean, they joked around and called themselves the world famous K-Rock, but I mean, they are absolutely. The thing that I thought was one of the coolest things in the world, and again, it wasn't a very popular station, so like the guys that were DJs on that station, they basically couldn't get a job like with CBS or ABC or one of these, giant, like, KLOS in Los Angeles or KABC or something like that. But they loved radio and they loved the music. So they worked there, and it was sort of a renegade kind of thing, right? They weren't like big global, or rather nationwide radio companies like you guys may have heard of Clear Channel if you're from the US, or Entercom or whatever. But Clear Channel, for some reason, they seem to be popular with people that weren't in radio. Like I would meet people and they're like, "Oh, are you from Clear Channel?" And I'm like, "How did you even know?" Like what? But I guess they were in the news enough, and so that made them popular. But the reason I bring that up is one of the things that I thought was just so cool about K-Rock is, and this is the story, okay? So this is the legend kind of thing that comes with the company, is that they stole the lights, the light bar, the flashing light bar from a police patrol car, ripped it off the patrol car and brought it into the station and then mounted it sideways right by the on-air studio. Because if you know anything about radio, and you've probably seen this in movies, even if you've never been into a studio, is that the guy turns the microphone on and the on-air light comes on, right? And so that is supposed to keep the salespeople out. No, basically it's supposed to be like, hey, look, so I'm talking, don't come on in right now. Or at least if you do, be quiet. But that was their on-air light. And so like the lights would like totally go around side and everything. And I was just like, other than the whole felony thing, I would love to be able to do that. I mean, I was younger, right? So it's like, oh, how cool would it be if we went out and we stole the lights from, from off of the top of a patrol car. My mouth's getting dry. I got to get some beverage pretty soon. And so, if you guys know, when I took breaks before, and I'm not ready to take a break or anything, but when I took breaks before, I would play music, right? I'm like, okay, well, I'll just throw on my internet radio station and I'll go ahead and I'll come back. And it was rare that it was even 60 seconds, usually maybe less than 2 minutes. Well, what I discovered, and if you guys don't know, my next goal for sort of a numeric goal within YouTube is 4,000 watch hours, right? Because I didn't realize that not only did I need 1,000 subs to get this community tab or turn on AdSense or whatever, is that I also need 4,000 watch hours. And before I started today, I had like 3,887 or something like this. So I got 120 to go. So, over the next week or so, I'm not worried. And if Rob shows up on the stream, then it's a pretty or if we throw the stream actually on his channel, then I'm quite certain we'll get over that hump. But that's okay. I'm not worried. But what I discovered is that time that I play the music, they basically rip all those watch hours out. And they don't just do it like the second I start the music and the second I stop. It's like, I think what they do is even if I only play 30 seconds of a song, they basically completely rip it out from as if I played the whole entire song. So if it's a 4-minute song and there's like 20 people watching, well, I just lost 80 minutes. So anyway, what I won't be doing today, I'm sorry to say, is that during breaks I will, and in fact, you know what? I may not go super long today. I may go till about 11:30, so just about another hour, because I got a buddy actually from back in California that I haven't talked to in forever, and so he sent me a text this morning, and he's like, "Dude, let's talk this afternoon," and I was like, "Okay." And it was one of those deals where how you have those buddies that like, I mean. Okay, there's a couple of things. The first is he's one of those buddies where like we can not talk forever and then we pick up the phone and it was just like we talked, 10, 15 minutes ago, right? Talked every day kind of thing, kind of like a brother. And again, I'm an only child, so maybe I don't know what that's like, but my point is that he's one of these guys that I will have as a friend for my entire life. And he's living in San Francisco, one of the most expensive places in the country. And he does not have one of the highest salaries of anyone in the country. And so, there's that kind of like, okay, so there's more month at the end of my money. And so he's been sort of struggling lately. And this dip in the economy was hardly an assistance, but maybe it will be, because of the programs that they have out right now. Unemployment and, what's some of the payment protection program, that sort of thing, but who knows? Joe says, so are we not trusted? Oh, Joe, I totally apologize. I don't know what that was in reference to. Was that reference to, giving that guy the wrench thing? If that's what you mean, I'm happy to do it. I mean, here's the thing. Here's what I've discovered is that you guys whose names I see, you're probably not going to do a whole lot because like we all seem to kind of know each other, right? Bob, Clay, Brian. I mean, they're even chatting when I'm talking about something completely different. They're like, no, Mike, we'd actually like to keep current and talk as friends did. But anyway. If that's what you mean, yeah, totally, dude. I'll add you. Shoot, you've got a Lamborghini symbol. And to be fair, unless I like really know you well, let me know if you think this is an appropriate boundary for this. And this is to you specifically, Joe. And again, I'm not singling you out. I just want to, I don't think that this is a requirement, but I had a friend of mine say the only people that I allow to be moderators, right, are people who have their actual face in the icon. And I said to myself, okay, I thought I get that because I won't connect with someone on LinkedIn if they don't have a picture of their face up there, right? But then I'm like, okay, well that's BS because if you guys seen my icon, it's me like going like this in front of some temple, and you can't see who I am. So I don't think that that's a very valid sort of requirement, So look, dude, Lamborghinis rule. Lambos, right? If you're into cryptocurrency at all, you know what Lambos mean. That means you struck it rich. Phil says, hey, bud. Phil from Melbourne, Australia, a friend of, hey, awesome. Absolutely. I, too, am a friend of Bill Wilson. Yep. Absolutely, dude. I totally get it. You want to talk about grateful? Oh, living the dream. Do you guys see my video from yesterday or 2 days ago? I walk down the street, right, and there's like people like sitting on the sidewalk, and they're not like on the side, but like the back of it and like waiting. And I thought, oh, maybe they're waiting to, get into, some store and there's like, social distancing, or they're only allowing like 10 people at a time. It's a little place or whatever. And there's like flip flops on the sidewalk and they're all like 2 meters apart. And so that's to say, okay, like this is the example of how far away you guys should sit. I go to the grocery store, I'm walking back and they're all now standing in line, still, with the 3 feet of distance or whatever. And then so I'm walking like into the line, like where it begins. And at the beginning of the line, at the beginning of the line, not the end, there's a little table and they're handing out, bags of rice and little things of food. And I looked over there and I looked at like the boxes of inventory, all of that. And then I kind of like looked down the sidewalk and I was like, okay, so the number of people here is more than the number of bags you have here. And I was just like, so yeah, you want to talk about grateful. I mean, guys, I just zero problems today. Absolutely zero problems today. I'm the luckiest guy in the world. Absolutely. Asia Unscripted says he'll be back in a bit, going to take a Chinese birthday meal down the street. Good for going to get a Chinese birthday meal. Good for you, man. That's cool. I assume you're going to go pick it up. If you guys can sit in restaurants in Cebu, that would be a massive luxury. Bob says WMEX, WRKO, but BCN ruled. Absolutely. Yeah. RKO was AM, as was MEX. And those were like classic call letters. Also WBZ. I mean, that was an AM station that basically did news, but yeah, it was Q102 country in Du Bois, Pennsylvania. Yeah, absolutely. Did I tell you guys I worked for a company and then we bought a bunch of radio stations? Anyway, one of the call letters, one of the stations we bought was KYKY. So one of their promos was like, oh, don't touch that dial. It's got KY on it, Dun-dun-dun, and I was like, that's pretty cute. It's kind of neat. KRQ had Dr. Demento, Jed the Fish, Adam Carolla, Dr. Drew, Rodney Bingenheimer? I don't remember Rodney. Bunch of oddballs doing crazy stuff. So I did a show during that whole era, right? One of the people that was also popular was April Whitney. And her name was lame, right? I mean, Jed the Fish. And what were some of the other ones that were like Sluggo, dude. Sluggo was, he was huge. But I knew Jed the Fish. And he was also friends with April. April would drive down to Los Angeles, or from Los Angeles to San Diego, and we would do a show on Sunday nights in direct competition with Loveline, with Adam Carolla and Dr. Drew. I mean, what kind of a moron program director says, oh, yeah, we're going to give you this time slot that in San Diego, 91X was the station that broadcast Loveline. And I'm like, okay, dude, there's no way. I mean, we've never done this show before. These guys have such a history for it, and the shtick that they're doing is infinitely different than ours. How are we going to compete? And then, less than a year later, he comes and he goes, well, I looked at the ratings book, and you guys aren't doing well. Yeah, dude, come on. Really? So that was tough. I was just like, man, you guys kind of set us up to fail. But yeah, I loved K-Rock. Pal Joey says, album-oriented rock blossomed at the same time as FM radio popularity. Indeed, yeah. And that was probably like what, late 70s? Enabling longer play times. They pushed each other to, I think, better quality, more intensive rock recordings. Yeah, the other thing that they would do is they would go deeper, right? So they wouldn't just play like the hit off of the album. They would potentially play like the second one or maybe the B-side or whatever. 1957, agree. So hold on. Okay. I believe that you were talking about radio. Cool. 20 seconds in Thailand says 4,000 watch hours. Oh my God, Rob's here. Hello, Rob. Good to see you, brother. Thanks for coming by. I really appreciate it. I'm only 6 minutes behind on the comments, so hopefully the delayed gratification wasn't, oh my God. West, East, and Bridgewater. Okay. So there's East Bridgewater, West Bridgewater, and, okay. Good to know. That's awesome. Rob is the original Florida man. Indeed. Yeah, absolutely. Hello and good morning, everyone. I'm just messing with you. Oh, okay. All right, fine, man. That's like totally cool. No trouble is here. Yeah, they are cool. Paula Joy says, Daddy-O Daily, Daddy-O's Mad Jazz Patio on FM in Chicago. Yeah, rest in peace. Yeah, the classic jocks that died, dude. That's always like kind of a bummer. I mean, Wolfman Jack, as you might guess, obviously he was a big hero of mine. The Wolfman Jack of San Diego was a guy named Shotgun Tom Kelly, and I was so blessed when I was like 20. My first real paying job in radio as an engineer, not as a jock, but as a broadcast engineer, was at KCBQ in San Diego, and Shotgun Tom Kelly was on there, and I was just like, oh my! I mean, he's a legend basically in San Diego. That was really cool. Matt, good to see you. Thanks for coming by. iTruck1, very cool. Says I was listening on Facebook where I had a face and name, but then I heard you say 4,000 hours, and I remembered I need to go. Thank you, dude. I really appreciate it. That's like totally cool. Yeah, I mean, again, every now and then I see someone from Hi, Missy, good to see you. Great example. The reason why I still stream on Facebook is Missy. Absolutely, because she swings by on Facebook, and she is one of my dear longtime friends, and she absolutely can probably relate. She's only 1 year, right? Maybe it's like a little bit more than 12 months. I can't remember, but she's basically my age, and so she listened to the exact same radio stations that me and all of my buddies did. And oh my God, Missy, you know what I just reflected on? Do you remember buying the Men at Work album and giving it to Sue for her birthday? And guys, so here's what I did, right? So there was this girl, and she was just like a friend of all of ours. And this was around the time that the new Men at Work album came out. Remember the yellow one with like so I go and buy this thing. Well, I bought it, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to give it to her. Well, I thought, I should really record this and put it, because that's what you did, right? You bought albums and you put it on cassette so you could listen to them with your Walkman. And so I opened the thing, with plastic, and then recorded the album, and then put the record back in, and then I gave it to Sue for her birthday, right? And I caught so much crap from all of my friends, like, oh my God, would you just like give her a used record, And looking back, it was probably kind of a cheesy thing to do, because again, it wasn't just so much the gift, right? It was the presentation. It was the fact that, you're giving someone something used, that was like a faux pas kind of thing, but I'll never forget that. What the heck was Sue's last name? I know Missy will know her last name. She was one of Missy's best friends. She lived right there on Main Street. And Roddy was Rodney on the Rock. Yes, I absolutely do remember that. I'll tell you what, dude, if internet radio was around back then, oh my God, I only would have listened to KROQ if I was living in Boston, or when I was living in Boston. The 4.0 Buick is what they were called. The holes is originally where the exhaust header pipes would exit the engine compartment. Sook of the Booze running day. So what, like 1920, 30 maybe? Or when was that? I can't remember when what was the amendments? Was it like the 17 and the 19? I can't remember which one like made it legal and then made it illegal. But anyway, later replaced with decals. Yeah, that was pretty cool. But anyway, Missy, great to see you. I'm so glad you're here. Clay says, I think I have a picture now. Again, not a requirement, dude. Absolutely not. TG, Wolfman Jack's scene in American Graffiti was short, but so moving. I thought it was magical. Totally, dude. I mean, talk about how much airtime did he get in that scene? I mean, it was so limited. It was ridiculous. But yeah, Sue Matzel, thank you very much. 13 months. Yeah, Missy and I are 13 months. So, yeah. I mean, we grew up with like Men at Work, and the Divinyls were a little bit later. But my God, yeah, all that 80s stuff. So that was really cool. But yeah, that's true. I remember watching that, and I don't know when American Graffiti came out, and I don't know if I saw it when it came out. I probably saw it like a couple of years later. I can't remember. But yeah, I remember watching that, and I was just like, oh my God, that's so cool. Like, I loved everything about the inside of a radio station, and all the knobs and the smell of it, and the walls and the cables and everything. I mean, just absolutely, I loved everything about it. And that's really the only way you could get into radio back then, because, as Rob may have mentioned before, I mean, you do it for free. Like, you do it for fun and for free. And you are a intern, basically. A lot of times, guys who start in radio were interns, and they would do remotes, which means they would lug all of the crap out to where the DJ or whatever was going to broadcast remotely, and the engineer could just show up, me, and just turn the knobs, and everything would be great. But all the equipment would be there, by some guy or bunch of guys, really, in their 20s, that were working for all of the T-shirts and albums they could eat. How do you get your face on the chat? So great question. I think all you do is really you just put your picture up into your YouTube profile, and then I will likely have to just hit refresh on this, and it will come up. So I'll try that here in a second. Yeah, ask Sue if she remembers that. She may be like, who the hell is Mike Summer? Love the Wolfman was absolutely great. Missy says she'll always associate me with the band Rat, and I can understand that. I mean, I absolutely loved when they came out. That was around the time that like Moni Moni was popular and Rat, and I used to Arnie Beveridge. Talk about a crazy last name. My buddy from high school, Arnie Beveridge, and he was one of those guys that was also like my buddy Mark that I told you about with like the Buick. Arnie was one of those guys that was like kind of like older, right? So he like came from another city or whatever, but his birthday was such that he was like older than all of us by like 6 to 8 months in high school. And so therefore he got his license before all of us. And he also got a car before all of us. So he had a Jeep for a while, and then he got a Toyota pickup, and he had a really decent stereo, right, in the pickup. And we used to just crank the Rat. I mean, oh God. And so here I know the song I'm thinking about, but I can't think about it right now because it's in my head. But anyway, yeah, I remember that album came out and how psyched I was to go buy it. Where did I buy it? One of them was like called Caldor, which is basically the equivalent of, let's see, if you're from the Midwest, it was kind of like Schnucks. No, that's a grocery store. Anyway. Yeah, waxing nostalgically. That guy says at film school at UCLA, bands would use the TV studio for free. One night we were going to tape this girl band, but they were late getting bailed out of jail, so we blew them off. They were the Go-Go's. I was going to say, yeah, the Go-Go's, I was a huge fan of those ladies. And it was, I don't know of any other all-girl bands that I knew of before I knew of the Go-Go's. That was a big deal. Round and round. Thank you, Missy. You're my hero. It's not working, Clay. Oh, you can't upload it. Well, here, hold on. Let me refresh this. Now it may go away. It may not do the chat the way I want it to. So it doesn't. Dude, please tell me this is going to refresh. I think what happens is I just lost all of the old chats, so I apologize for that, guys. But what I can do is I can go to my live stream. I can go over there and see all the chats in there that I may have missed. So right now it's sort of refreshing. So because of that, and because I'm over here, it's showing the kind of some chats that are sort of old. But let me go to my live stream, which would be a good idea anyway, because I want to make sure that I turned on chat. What happens is that I have the ability to save all of the chat, which I don't necessarily want all of the saved chat information. The reason I do it is what happens is that I have the ability. I want to save all of your names. So save chat is still on, and then what happens is that it'll save all your names, and then I can pop out what they refer to as participants. Those are all of you, and then ideally I will be able to thank you with appropriate list at the end of the show. And that again is something that I'm trying to work on that would like scroll up the screen. So anyway, that's the best I can know. But yeah, the film school comment, yeah, that was like pretty interesting. Yeah. Okay. So Joe, thank you. Yeah, you need. So thank you very much. I actually probably misspoke. I think I told you. Yeah, you need to add it in your. You're right. You need to add it in your Google profile, not your YouTube profile. Basically, it will be in your Google profile, and therefore that picture would basically show up in anything that you log into with Google. So, Bob says, got busted too many times with transistor radio under my pillow listening to Larry Glick or Wolfman Jack. I absolutely remember Larry Glick. Yeah. And you know what's funny about that is that, like, I don't know about you guys, but I reflect back on, some of the stuff that I, tried to get away with that my parents didn't want me to do. And I mean, I compare that to present day, and Dolor official, sorry, thought this was church's group chat. Okay, yeah, no worries. I think back, and then I think about like some of the things that my buddies, teenagers, like even 10 years ago, were doing, and I'm like, man, Like I thought it was like a big deal. Like I was really getting away with something if I had the transistor radio under my pillow when my parents were like, listen, go to bed. And I'm like, no, I'm going to listen to, and I can tell you exactly what I used to listen to, which is, oh my God, I just spaced on it. Dr. Demento. Dr. Demento is what I would listen to Sunday nights, right? And if you and here's one for you. And if without Googling this, do you know Dr. Demento's real name? So, or for that matter, do you know Wolfman Jack's real name? And I'll give you a hint. It's the same name as the guy from The Cure. And again, no Googling. But in any case, yeah. So Wolfman Dr. Demento was something that I used to love listening to, because he was kind of like the guy that did the what was that guy that made the parody of songs? I mean, I met him before, actually. Curly hair, glasses, and instead of doing Who's Bad by Michael Jackson, it was like Who's Fat. I mean, he was genius. And for some reason, I can't remember his name right now. I'm sure one of you guys will. But in any case, he that guy says you do know Dr. Demento's Weird Al. Thank you very, very much. Yeah, absolutely. Weird Al Yankovic. Yeah, I met him when I was in radio in San Diego. You want to talk about a cool guy. Actually, you know what? To be fair, 99.9% of the people that I met that were like kind of like household word music names when I was in radio, they were all so totally cool. So totally cool. And I mean, I hate to do this sometimes because then, you're name dropping or whatever. But I'll tell you what, man, one of the coolest people I ever met was Steven Tyler. And, he and I also shared this life path to some degree. And, goals of like being grateful and taking care of yourself. He differed from the path occasionally. But yeah, he was, some of these guys were just like really cool. And you know why I say 99% of the time and not the 1% and not 100%? Because I'll never forget when I met Sting, and I'm thinking, oh my God, dude. And you guys, everyone knows Sting's real name. But I met Sting, and I was like, he wasn't really cool. I mean, you want to talk about a global icon, though. I mean, having him in the station, it was a big deal, a very big deal. Joe Wilkie, yes, I did. Okay, interesting. Yeah, so I'm not quite sure why, if you refresh your Google profile, if it's not showing up here. So I apologize. And again, guys, not a requirement, because again, you can't see my face, right? So probably have to reset YouTube. Yeah, maybe. That would mean like shutting the stream off and turning it back on again. And I mean, sure, there's 26 of you guys here. I mean, I just thank you so much. I'm honored by that. That's just fantastic. Fish heads, roly-poly fish heads, eat them up, yum. Good job, Missy. Absolutely. Okay, so Weird Al Yankovic, thank you. Brian says Bangles may have been around as long as the Go-Go's. Yeah, Suzanne hotter than Valer. Absolutely, dude. Totally. Bangles, oh yeah, she was cute. Met Weird Al in 84. Oh, dude, that was when he was like absolutely cool and bitchin'. That was like totally cool. I didn't meet him until it was around the time where actually he stopped looking like Weird Al. Like, you remember when he changed his appearance big time, and it was like not the Weird Al that you saw. We also, actually, I was like, why did I meet him? Because he did a show at the Del Mar Fair, which was basically this you think like county fairs are big. The Del Mar Fair in San Diego, in Del Mar, basically they now call it the San Diego County Fair. It is huge. It's just massive, and it's a great show, and they bring in really, really good bands. Anyway, it's one of those, and sometimes like the bands were like Foghat, and that sort of thing. You're like, okay, yeah, good. Foreigner, right? But not like super. But then they would have, like big, current bands. But one of the sort of, oh yeah, I remember him when I was a kid, right? It was Weird Al Yankovic, and he came and he performed, and he did, I think he did Who's Fat. I'm trying to remember what he did, but 84, that guy, that must have been huge. Susanna Hoffs. Oh yeah. Yeah, no, that was a beauty. Missy said he's not cool anymore. He was at Rose City Comic-Con a few years ago and was a total jerk to people. That's too bad. I can understand why that might happen, because I can tell you that I've been in scenarios where there's been a lot of people, and they have I'll tell you right now, it is 100% totally out of phase with the way that we are all here on this chat. Meaning that, like, you guys chat with each other. I mean, one could argue that you're here because I turned this thing on, okay? But after that, it's like, Bob and Brian are like, no, dude, East Bridgewater. I mean, you guys are probably like 20 comments down now, and I'm behind, but you guys are like talking with. So the point is, oh my God, I want to touch Mike's robe and kiss his ring. No, that's nonsense, right? But like, I have been in scenarios, and it was with the star, but it was also, I wasn't necessarily the star, but I was someone who people were sort of there to see, okay? And so I can tell you that in those scenarios, there occasionally will occur sometime where you are overwhelmed, and it's no longer like cool. Like, it's no longer like ego boost, or like people want your autograph or that sort of thing. They almost, I will never forget this. Some people, and it was usually girls too, and I don't know whether this was, but regardless, they would show up and they would almost feel like we have a relationship, like not a romantic relationship, but it's like we've been friends for a long time and we knew. And what'll happen is a lot of times those people will ask you questions about potentially intimate and personal things that, if put it this way, if you were to like walk up to some random girl that you wanted to ask out and you started doing that, she would look at you like, okay, dude, you're totally creeping me out. Like, you should not know that I did this kind of thing. And what that occasionally will translate to is people making that statement. I heard he was a total jerk. And I'll give you a great example of when that happened for me. Not for me, against me, but at Comic-Con. Comic-Con in San Diego is the largest convention San Diego has had, ever will have. It is giant. And the Hoff was there, and he was one of my buddy's really good friends. And David Hasselhoff, if you don't know. And of course, I grew up with David Hasselhoff as Michael Knight, right, from Knight Rider. I mean, that was like when he was on like Baywatch, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's cool and everything. And yeah, I like beautiful women, but I mean, it was kind of like I didn't really associate that thing. For me, he was like Knight Rider. He was, he was the one who had Kit. And I think this was around the time where that whole scandal, like in the public, was about him basically, before he got sober. I guess there was like some scene or something where he like eats a hamburger and he spits it up all over himself. And it was one of these, before videos went viral, like a video went viral of him and he was totally drunk or whatever. And so people had this preconceived notion of what he was going to be like. And he was there, and he was also newly sober. And if you've ever gotten sober and you're newly sober, the world's a little bit odd because one of the ways that you deal with, one of the ways that you experience, one of the ways that I dealt with, and one of the ways that I experienced life, was basically inebriated. I was numbed, and I did not know how to do it otherwise. And so what happened to David was that I heard afterwards, people were like, oh my God, he's like a real jerk. And I'm like, okay, so I get why you said that. You had this expectation that he was going to, the minute you walked up to him, he was going to either look at your name tag or he was going to somehow magically know your name. And again, Missy, I'm not saying the people at Rose City were having this expectation. I'm not going to put behavior into their mouth, if you will. But I can tell you that my experience is that a lot of times, yes, that may in fact be how you might have perceived him, but they were just like saying, okay, so like, you guys are really freaking me out right now kind of thing. And again, I don't know whether that was the case, but I will tell you that when I met Weird Al, I mean, let's say for the sake of argument, you'll label me as an extrovert. He is an introvert. And like anybody on stage, there's some degree of acting, okay? There's some degree of performance. There's some degree of, and many people will negatively refer to it as sort of the mask you wear. It is the persona that you put on, which I'm here to tell you, at least in my belief, the way I am with you guys here right now is like literally the way I would be with you if you were hanging out in my condo with me. Meaning I would be doing all the talking and you wouldn't get an edge. And eventually I would scroll up and see what you said to me 10 minutes ago. And then we would, no, it would not be that way. It would be a lot more interactive. But I'm this way. I use my hands. I'm fairly caffeinated, and that sort of thing. And I really love life, which might make you guys want to throw up. Rob's the same way. He's like in a great mood. He loves everybody. He's always looking at the positive, and he's freaking hilarious. And so he and I bounce off each other really well. But the point is that I'll tell you what, I've met more stars that when you meet them, like in real life, if you will, they are very introverted, but they are excellent at their craft. And so they get out there and it's like hand them a microphone and, or give them a guitar or put them in front, give them 2 drumsticks, and they are on fire. They are the best at that of anyone you've ever seen, kind of thing. And so what happens is you get more popular, you get fans, and you get people that follow you, and so that. And I'll tell you, the majority of the time that I've met someone that I've heard stories about, like, oh yeah, this guy's a real jerk, or man, she's a total bitch, or whatever. That has not been my experience. And again, I don't know if it's because the scenario that I'm meeting them in, they're less on guard. Like I can tell you, when I first met Olivia Newton-John, I was pretty starstruck because I thought to myself, and Missy will appreciate this, when Grease first came out and we went and saw it, and I had beforehand, and I was still like 12, 13, whatever, when it came out. But when it came out and I had friends saying, oh yeah, Grease is new, Grease, right? And they were like, oh, it's a musical. I was like, dude, come on. I'm not going to like a musical. Like I want Star Wars and I want like Blood and Guts or whatever, right? And I saw Grease and I was like, okay, that movie was amazing. And I hope you'll agree with me that Olivia Newton-John in that was like friggin' adorable. Like you were like, oh, I am bringing you home to my mother, because if I do, we are golden. Like you are amazing. You are the girl next door, which if you don't know, Missy actually literally was the girl next door. Missy asked, do you remember Neil Burns? He is an Aerosmith cover band called Draw the Line. Steven Tyler loves it. That's totally awesome. Is Neil still in where we grew up? Is he still back there? That guy says making love in a Subaru. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, now that guy, I'm going to scroll down and see if you put it in there, but I don't see where, because that guy was the one who said that he knew Dr. Demento's real name without Googling it, and I trust you guys. But anyway, making love in a Subaru. Well, Paradise by the Dashboard Light. Did you guys ever like play that? Like when you were like kissing a girl in a car, like it in the dark, like in the parking lot or in whatever, just because it was like, well, let me go for the whole scene here. I'm going to like play, I can see, like, oh my God. I mean, talk about, yes, now I'm really living like I'm in the 70s. Joe says, I'm going to step away for a little bit. Like Arnold, I'll be back. Joe, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Daniel, aloha from Honolulu. Hope you're doing well. I am doing well, Dan, or Daniel, whether you go by either one. But thank you very much for coming by. So Honolulu, okay, so are you 1 or 2 hours ahead of, or behind rather, California? I can never remember. It is now April, so that means we're still in standard time, right? Till the end of this month. So I think you're either 1 or 2 hours, but I can't remember. So yeah, so absolutely, my friend. Aloha and mahalo for coming by. That guy says, Weird Al was unbelievably shy when I met him. Absolutely. And that's what I was getting to. I apologize if I didn't clarify why I was going down the road with that story, other than, of course, to hear myself talk. But yeah, dude, very, very shy, but I'll tell you, you get him out there on stage and it's like, he made people laugh just by showing up. Because I mean, let's face it, he looked a little goofy, although I did love his hair. But I mean, he made you laugh because that was your expectation. You're like, okay, he's going to make a parody of a song that the first time I hear it, I'm going to be like, oh my God, that just totally makes sense. Like, why didn't I think of Who's Fat? I mean, that was talk about an amazing video. I mean, that was just, amazing. So anyway, yeah, I was a huge fan. I just thought he was so talented at doing that. And at the end of the day, I mean, think about it. Like there's a lot of talented guitar artists. There's a lot of great piano players out there. There's only one Steven Tyler and there's only one Queen, right? There's only one Kiss. There's only one. Okay. But there are other, bands that are similar. But there were, as far as I know, there were no other Weird Als. I mean, if you were trying to like break into the thing of being like a parody guy back then, I mean, forget it. Everyone would just be like, oh, yeah, no. Like you're just trying to be like Weird Al, right? Whereas today, I don't know if you guys have ever seen these on YouTube, but there's this one guy. He's actually really, really funny. And he's making parody videos about the coronavirus. And one of them is, you might guess, My Sharona by the Knack, right? He goes, My Corona. And so it's a pretty good one. If you want to see it pretty well, I mean, it's very well produced. And the background music he uses is almost exact. It's not the exact, band playing it like in a karaoke thing where they just rip out the vocals. But yeah, look on YouTube for My Corona parody, maybe. You might even not need to put the word in parody, but yeah, it was really funny. But he was totally shy. Sat on a couch during a dorky party in the San Fernando Valley and never said a word. Yeah, we are all dorks. Totally. I mean, dude, come on. Missy says one of the closest friends paid to see him, and Weird Al was yelling at security not to let people look at him. When my friend's turn came, he barely looked. Yeah, and that sucks that he did that. And, like I've never been in a bad mood, right? And I've never had a bad day. And I totally get that. But like I have also said before, like when I was in radio and I flipped on the microphone, like I was in a good mood. Like you just not, I mean, even at like 3 a.m, it was as if it was 3 p.m. and there were 100,000 people listening to me. I mean, that's your role. I mean, I don't expect Weird Al to like fix my transmission. I expect him to be a star and do this. So dude, I totally get that, Missy. And that's too bad. My experience with him was he was actually a pretty nice guy. Bob, thank you so much for coming by, man. Really appreciate it. That's like that. Well, it's wicked pissa. Bob's from East Bridgewater, Missy. So of course that means he's wicked pissa. Missy said, "Yeah, nothing's changed. You are still the same level." But what's interesting, Missy, and I didn't realize this, is that you actually made a comment a while back that you see me as being more myself now than I was, because Missy saw me basically towards the end of my drinking. So she has a pretty clear memory of how bad it got for Mike. You don't know exactly, because of course she and I just like hung out at a restaurant bar. It wasn't really a nightclub, but we danced all night one night in Laguna Beach, and that sort of thing, and drank too much or whatever. But no, she never saw me. She never saw me as a monster, thank God. But I definitely wasn't me back then, and so I'll never forget that, Missy. And this was like only like about 6 months ago. You were just like, oh no, you're like more now the way I remember you when I was, potentially an innocent teenager. Clay says, I have a picture everywhere but here on chat. Yeah, Clay, I apologize. And I think the correct answer is that I would have to restart the stream here. And so I am psyched. And again, I'm not giving you a wrench just because you had that. So no weirdo. I love Xanadu. Actually, what song I really like too is Let's Get Physical. I mean, because the beat to it, man, it's great. Caesar asks, where is Dr. Demento now? Really, really great. That guy says Barry Hansen. Are you sure? I believe that Dr. Demento's real name is Ronnie Woo Woo Ginsburg. And so you could absolutely be right. But that was the name that I learned years ago. And I've been going with that for I want to say at least 30 years. So anyway, if his name's Barry Hansen, awesome. That's great. Tom Likas. Yeah, I remember Tom Likas. That guy says, I heard a great Olivia Newton-John story. At a bar mitzvah dinner, she was seated next to an old man who hadn't heard of her. Yeah. So the old guy asked her what she did, and she said, I'm a singer. He replied, oh, that's a very tough business. Are you having any luck? She replied, a little. That's adorable. Yeah, when I met her, she was, I was totally blown away. I mean, it was like, I was starstruck, absolutely starstruck. It also had to do with the fact that when she showed up, because people knew she was going to show up, by the time she showed up, there were, I want to say, at least 10,000 people standing around waiting. And I was the engineer for all the sound. And so I was like, ooh, that better work. So I'm pretty confident it was starstruck, but it was also a little bit of stress and anticipation. So, but that is a great story. That's absolutely a great story. You having any luck with that, Olivia? Yeah, a little. Man, I mean, was she like number one at some point? I mean, one of her songs, meaning? Maybe it was the one that came out like when Grease came out, when the movie debuted, because obviously, that made, I mean, those guys were just, I mean, because I really didn't, no, I didn't like fall in love, but for the sake of argument, I didn't really fall in love with John Travolta when he was in Saturday Night Fever. But when I saw him in Grease, I was like, I mean, I get that he was playing a role, and I'm not going to go out and like, well, at the time, smoke cigarettes. I wasn't about to go out, like get a leather jacket and like comb my hair and, try to be a womanizer on the outside, but a guy with a good heart on the inside. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Brian says, I rewrote Sayonara by the Pogues, and I'll line it to you sometime. Cool. Dude, that's awesome. Absolutely. Missy says, yeah, you told me some of your horror stories. So glad you are where you are now. Yeah. Yeah, I don't get into my horror stories here on the YouTube channel, but I can tell you guys, if you have ever read any books or you have ever had any friends that basically are sober now, and you heard any of like the reasons why, I'm that. Most of my peers that decided to get sober, you don't do it because like, oh man, I got really drunk one night and I threw up on myself. I'm going to be sober for. No, sadly, the road to happiness is paved with shards of glass, and you're barefoot. So yeah, but I'll tell you. I mean, again, I'm so grateful. I mean, I'm alive today. What are you kidding me? I'm laughing with you guys, with a number of people that I have only met in the last, well, Brian has been on the channel, I think, for about 3 years, maybe 4. But Caesar, that guy, I mean, you guys are Rackman, that guy's been around for a while too. He's actually been a sub for a while, and then of course, Missy, I've known since I always forget, but she knows, like, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, something like that. That guy says Olivia was huge in the day. Yeah, I believe that she was, Machine Gun Kelly shot his wife and went to jail. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of too bad. Google says it's Barry Hansen. All right, fair enough. Okay, so if you haven't Googled it then, and without Googling it, what is Wolfman Jack's real name? I would submit more people know that, and I swear. So I'm going to have to Google Ronnie Woo Woo Ginsburg and find out who that is, because for some reason I associate that with Dr. Demento. So I don't know why I do that, but Clay says Olivia Newton-John number 1 song Hopelessly Devoted to You. That hit number 1? Yeah. Okay. Really? And I didn't like that as much, but it's so funny. There are some songs by groups that like have a really good beat and they're like, jamming and you totally want to dance to it. Great. Missy was 6, I was 7. Okay, so there you go. Yep. Always into the younger women, even back then. That's not true, actually. I had a total crush on a girl that lived next to Missy, and she was 3 years older than me. So she was one of the big kids. So funny, right? How it's so funny, like back then, and even, and back there in the United States, if someone is like not your age or like not in your grade when you're younger, I mean, there's something about it. Like if you're in junior high and as a girl and you're dating a guy who's in high school, meaning he's like 7 months older than you, that's like a big deal. Oh my God. And I'll never forget, there were a few girls in my high school, and I don't know whether it was them when they were seniors, probably it was. And the rumor, and traditionally this was about 50% true, the rumor was like, oh yeah, that girl, she's dating a guy in college, which again meant that she's basically dating some guy who's potentially 6 months, maybe on the outset, 18 months older than her. But it was like, oh my God, what the hell's that guy doing? Is that even legal? But if you're 18 in high school and you're dating a 17-year-old, I mean, it's the same legal ramifications possibly, right? But yeah, man, age difference, that just made That was crazy. Long Live Love, also in 1974. Very cool. Okay, Arnie Wu Ginsburg, born in 1926, was an American disc jockey in the Boston radio market from the mid 50s to the 70s. Okay, Brian, so why? So who is it then? So maybe that's why I knew his name. Because he was he like a Dr. Demento character, but he did a show like that on BCN? Brian, do you know who I'm thinking of? Like, why do I know Ronnie Woo Woo Ginsburg as a name, as the real name of some guy who had a radio name that I definitely knew from radio? So that's really cool. So that guy, have you Googled what is Ronnie Woo Woo Ginsburg's, or Arnie? Thank you. Arnie Woo Woo Ginsburg. I crushed so hard on Stacy. Used to bug me so much. Really? Oh, that's weird. I don't remember that. I remember I had a crush on you too, though. So don't worry. But oh God, guys, do you remember like when you liked the girl, and it was like terrifying to be around her? Like if you didn't like her and you like hung out with her, then you would just like hang out with her. But like, West Coast kid, never heard of Arnie Woo Woo Ginsburg. Yeah, but obviously if he was in the Boston market, I mean, I definitely would have known him as, maybe he was a guy that was kind of doing like a local version of Dr. Demento on Saturday nights, and maybe I listened to him. Missy and I had a big long... Missy says we dated for all of 3 days. Yeah, so there was a time in my life when that was a long-term relationship, actually a whole 3 days. Oh my God, why are you spending so much time with her? Would be the reaction from one of my buddies. Clay says, is it possible to meet up with you when I go to Bangkok for my visa run? Absolutely. So you're coming to Bangkok? The short answer, Clay, is absolutely. The easiest thing to do if you want to like connect is to shoot me an email at livemyassoff@gmail.com. I believe that's also the email address that's like in the about of my YouTube channel. When you click about and you go down there for the contact info. So it's the same email that I give out to everybody. And in fact, if I hadn't said it before, if any of you guys like want to chat like one-on-one afterwards, or even like just, hey dude, what's going on? Oh my God, what's it like outside? Oh, it's thunderstorms. Cool. Now I can move on with my life. If you want to do that, the easiest way is for you to email me, livemyassoff@gmail.com. Brian, you can't say either. Again, why do I know his real name and not his radio name from when he was clearly, I mean, it was obviously the tail end. So it would have meant that I listened to him likely on WRKO. Anyway, I may have to Google it here too in a second. I also need to get a cool and refreshing beverage here in a second. But yeah, anyway, livemyassoff@gmail.com. If you guys email me there, then and just tell me what the best way. My buddy Ed just told me congrats on hitting 1,000. That's very cool. What did he? Okay, so Brian just sent me something. The bus is starting now. I got a part. I walked to the nearest bar. I sat down. So he just sent me like a story or something like that. Google Docs creating it. Cool. So I'll have to read that when I have a little bit more time. Thanks, Brian. Anyway, but let me know the best way to contact you, because if you're like in Thailand, then there's a pretty good chance Clay. So if you're here like already and you like come to Thailand regularly, then there's probably a pretty good chance you have Line. So you can just let me know if that's the best way to contact you, and then just let me know in that email, or if Facebook Messenger is better, or I also have WhatsApp. If you're someone who like goes to China all the time, I absolutely have WeChat. I'm trying to think what else I use that is like sort of popular. That's pretty much it. What I don't do, I will tell you, is I don't text via my Thai number. What's so bizarre, and really, it's the welcome paradigm about cell service here. And the other reason I bring that up is I just got a message from my cell phone provider that said, oh, by the way, at the end of the month, you're going to owe us 1,500 baht. And I'll tell you right now that my plan is 999 baht a month. And I know exactly why it's 1,500 baht, because every time I get a text message, and I get text messages regularly because I have my bank notify me of stuff that way, or I have payment things notify me at my Thai number. Now in the US, you're like, oh my God, I can't believe that you pay extra for SMS texts. Usually that's just like thrown into the bucket. The cool thing over here, though, is what gets thrown into the bucket over here is an enormous amount of very fast, very reliable data. So I literally have unlimited data on my phone where my Google Fi number, and thank you, Brian, on my Google Fi number, it's $10 for every gig of data, which is ridiculous. I mean, that's 300 baht for every gig of data over here. When I was buying like prepay, now I just postpay because then that way it's a lot easier and I get unlimited data. I was buying 15 gigs of data for $9. 15 gigs of data on the Google plan before they shelved it off at 10 gigs. But 10 gigs of data on the Google plan was $100. Now, again, they said, okay, and if you go over that, then we'll give you the rest of those gigs for free. So your maximum bill was basically 100 gigs worth of data and then like 30 gigs for like the phone, right? So you had to pay the taxes, you had to get the phone, and you got, unlimited messaging and unlimited calls in the US, Canada, Mexico, that sort of thing. And so over here, you get like unlimited data, you get unlimited. A lot of times, actually in the Philippines, if you use Facebook and you don't pay for a data plan, you get like Facebook for free. You just don't get the videos or the messages. But over here in Thailand, you pay like this one price and you get unlimited data, which one could argue like that's the big thing. But if you text, I mean, it's like, I don't know it's 30 cents a text. I mean, can you imagine? I mean, it's just like ridiculous, right? But it's just like, okay, well, it's the least thing I use, but I absolutely use it and I rely on it. Whenever you sign up for things over here, a lot of time, what happens is like, okay, well, give me your number. Because if you don't have a Thai number, then, it's pretty easy to say, okay, well, you're not even like a tourist. Like, I mean, at least tourists, you can get like a cell number, you can get a SIM, right? Like at the airport. But, if you're living here, then you absolutely have a Thai number. So anyway, so that's just, let me know. RKO was Johnny Dart. So Johnny Dart, his real name was Arnie Woo Woo Ginsburg. I don't know about that. But anyway, Clay, I'd be totally psyched to meet. I will traditionally, and it depends where you are. I mean, if you're just coming to Bangkok to like hang out, to go stamp in, stamp out of wherever other country you're in for that visa run. Clay, are you in Vietnam? I can't remember where you are. So first time coming in June. I bet mid-June, especially if you're local, like if you're over in Vietnam or Cambodia or Singapore, well, if Singapore will open up the airport and let you leave. So that'll be interesting. Once you hit 6 gigs on Fi, the rest is free. That's good to know. Yeah, that's pretty cool. You know what it was, Brian? Is I was thinking to myself, Philippines. Oh, okay. Right on, Clay. So I was thinking the $100. That's what it was. Meaning like your maximum bill basically can't go over $100 like per line kind of thing, because like the phone charge is anywhere from like 30 to 40 if you have just the one number. And then the maximum you'll pay for is $60 worth of data. That's right. Yeah. And Google Fi, I will tell you, I mean, I absolutely love it. Because when I was traveling, it allowed me to leave the US and pretty much have 100% the exact same experience on my phone that I had in San Diego, that I had in Maui, that I had in Boston, that I had in Florida. I mean, it was literally like it worked everywhere. It was very impressive. Recently, when it first came out, you always got 3G in foreign countries, and that was very disappointing. And like when I was in Spain, the nice thing was okay, like you get free gig, you get free data, but you get it at 3G. But click on this link and you will be able to pay like an extra $10 or whatever it is per week, and then you'll get 4G. And I was like, okay, well, that's the paradigm that should work. Like, in other words, the reason I have this and I'm traveling internationally is because like I'm gonna go back. Like you don't like wake up one morning in Thailand and say, okay, I've never had a cell phone before. What should I get? And you look all over the globe and you say to yourself, I'm going to definitely get Google Fi. That would be insane anywhere in Asia, because data on your phone in Asia is next to free. And so to get the charges to get a U.S. cell phone cost in Thailand. I mean, that's just, I can't even imagine if my cell phone was 3,000 baht. I would have if it was, I would think someone stole it, and or cloned it or something. Or did that something. So Claire, that's interesting that you need to do a visa run. And is that because, remind me when you need to do them over there? Once a year? Because I thought once you basically got your, what is it, OCR card? Is that right? Or is that optical character recognition? And I'm getting the wrong 3 letters. But anyway, so none of you guys are going to Google Arnie Ginsberg. What was Arnie Ginsberg's DJ name in Boston? All right, well, guess what I'm doing then? The other thing that I'm going to do is tell you Wolfman Jack's real name, because none of you guys seem to guess it. It is Robert Smith, which is also the lead singer of The Cure. What was Arnie Ginsberg? Oh, wow. So you know how like Google autocompletes? So when I type in what was Arnie Woo Woo Gin, and then it basically completes it with Ginsberg or Ginsberg net worth or Ginsberg video or Ginsberg show. So that's, I'm going to type in, Ginsberg became known for his collection of bells, whistles, horns, and other sound effects, which he frequently used on the air during his show. He was often called Woo Woo because of the train whistles he used to use. Arnie Ginsberg. Okay, so hold on. Radio name. What was Arnie Woo Ginsberg's radio name? The Sound of the 60s. Guys, why don't I mean, that's so bizarre that like somehow. Oh, wow. Hey, so this is pretty interesting for Bob, who's actually gone, but for Brian, is that BostonMagazine.com did a piece on the history of Boston radio. And it's at Harvard. And the front cover has Arnie Woo Woo Ginsberg as the picture there of basically saying, I simply can't figure it out right away, which is sort of weird. Anyway, I'll have to do more research because that's going to bug me. Hey, Joe, welcome back, buddy. Right on. Video calls with overseas girlfriends will run up quick. Oh, dude, I can't even. Well, I mean, yeah, but what are you using? I mean, if you use Skype for that, I mean, Gracie and I, we can video chat on WhatsApp. It's free. It doesn't cost anything more. So that's interesting. I'm curious what you mean by that. Clay says you get the ARC card. Thank you. Good for 1 year, but allowed to stay here for 3 years. Then must do a visa run. Got it. Totally makes sense. Yeah. So, dude, I mean, the short answer is whenever you can come over. Because I mean, I can totally go outside right now. Now, we couldn't go have a cup of coffee unless we both bought one to go and then walked outside and then had masks on. Well, that's not true. If we walked outside and basically if we were in an area where there is nobody, then, I mean, I go to my, actually, so there's this little park actually that's in my condo complex. And when I go out there, I see couples out there and they both don't have their mask on. So, and when I do a video, if you saw my last one, when I was walking down the street, I totally had my mask on because like, it's just more appropriate for me to have my mask on. So anyway, I do it and it's no skin off of my nose, as they say. And all I believe it does is make me feel like I'm basically a part of. So, so you know what I'm going to do? I don't know if Rob's still there. What time is it? 11:30? No, he's probably off doing something. But what I will do is, and again, if you are on a mobile device, or not again, but I'm going to give this, am I near the airport? I mean, no, I'm not in Lam Shabang, which is basically near the airport. And I assume you mean Suvarnabhumi. If you mean, Google says his radio name was Woo Woo Ginsberg. Weird. Why do I think? All right. Yeah, that's what I got out of reading what I did briefly there too, Missy. So I don't know why. So, hey, dude, what's going All right. So if you want, Rob, I threw this, or for anyone else, actually, for anyone who like wants to come on the stream and we can like chat, like totally go for it. But you can't do that on a mobile device. Go Lightstream doesn't work. But if you're on a laptop or whatever, and I recommend you use Chrome anytime. What should basically occur when you click on that is that you should go into my green room. And then we can potentially chat if you want to chat. Not a requirement, but I was just throwing it out there because I was thinking about that when Clay brought up, hey, dude, you want to hang out when I come over here for my visa run. But here's the thing. Clay, have you ever been to Bangkok? Because if you've never been, then it might, the first time, like doing BTS, that might be, it might be a little annoying. I can tell you right now, I'm not going to tell you to basically get a cab at the airport and meet me like in the city center. It's funny. I used to say downtown Bangkok, but like Bangkok has so many like little areas, right? Like there's Nana, and then there's Terminal 21 area, and then there's Lower Sukhumvit, and then there's, there's just a whole bunch of little pockets. And in fact, I probably will never find them all. There's Thong Lo now that used to just be like a street, but now it's like a total area where it's like a lot more, sort of, it's more posh. It's more hip, actually. So, or Prakanong, that's another area. So anyway, so I'm near the airport. No, but within less than 1 hour, you can get on the airport rail link train, and then from there, you've never been here? Okay, so I don't know what you want to do. Am I thinking of his partner, John Garabedian? So seriously, so him and John were both on the radio at BCN at the time. Maybe that's why I'm thinking of him, because I absolutely loved John Garabedian. He was my hero, or one of them. Jeremy Savage was my childhood radio best friend. Sorry, not best friend, my hero. And he was on WCOZ. And Missy probably remembers how amazing WCOZ was. If you were cool when you were in 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th grade, you listened to COZ. And you had a WCOZ bumper sticker. So when you get to Bangkok, I guess really the easiest question, Clay, is are you just going to come in and like stamp in and hang out and then stamp out and cruise back to the Phils? Or are you like, well, I should go to Bangkok and I'll stay there for like 5 days and then maybe I'll fly down to, I don't know, Phuket for all that, or I'll go to Pattaya. Like I've never been to Pattaya. I've heard of this crazy Pattaya place and maybe I want to go, or maybe you don't. Or maybe you just want to go to an amazing beach or an amazing island or something like that. But depending upon how long you're going to stay here in Bangkok or Thailand for that matter, that'll sort of determine. If you're just going to like come in and hang out in the airport and then you got a flight that leaves like in an hour, then I'll just come to the airport. Because I can get on BTS and Airport Rail Link and blam, I'm there. Actually, from my condo, it's a pretty much straight shot north. And so 2 days. So if you're doing that, then I assume that you're going to stay in Bangkok. So if you've never been and you already have sort of an idea of where you're going to stay and the hotel, I would venture out on, and you're coming like during the day. Like if you're coming at like 10 or 11 at night, don't bother with the public transportation. Take a cab or something like that. If you have Grab on your phone, I don't know if Grab Philippines works in Thailand. You may have to set up a new account, like with a different email address and or payment. I can't remember. You can pay cash, absolutely, for Grab, much like you can do that in the Philippines, but it's less common here. A lot of times you just sort of okay, so Rob is in the green room. So here's what I'm going to do, Rob. I'm going to move us into a window. I'm going to add you here in a second. But let's hang out on this beach. And so I need to add my camera into this. So stand by, and then I will add you, young man. And okay, so if I hit and then here's the thing, Rob, I don't have, what this doesn't have that I'm just, because here's another couple of things that Rob and I are doing, guys, is that we're trying to figure this out. You're going to soon, okay, I'll wait till you get it hooked up. You want me to wait till you get your microphone hooked up? Um, I will. I'll add him here. I'll add him to the scene, and boom, 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 and then we can both basically hang out on the beach. Okay, so he can see what's going on now. So now we're basically live, dude. I heard a great thing about your buddies at Nightwish relative to that shirt you're wearing. They are giving like so much food out in Pattaya, the Nightwish group, dude. That is friggin' spectacular. And okay, so now you were muted, but now you're not. And I actually cannot hear you. I don't know if I should be able to hear you. I think I should be able to hear you, but I cannot hear you. Actually, no, I've got a Thailand Rob's microphone and it's turned all the way up, but I can't hear you. So say like 9,000 words. Quick. Nope, can't hear you. Can you hear me? Shake your bald head if you can hear me. Oh, wow. There's just like zero love coming from you right now. Can't hear you. I cannot hear you. Now, again, I'm not saying that that's your fault, but you can hear me? Okay, but I cannot hear you. Now, you should not necessarily be able to hear yourself. So, okay, no worries. Rob is like, dude, relax. How funny. I cannot hear you. So let me try and figure out why that would possibly be. No, can't hear you. Is there any sort of indication on the on like your screen? Like I don't know what your side looks like, so I don't necessarily know how your audio gets in there. No, can't hear you. I see your lips moving, baby, but I can't hear the audio. And hold on. No, I can't hear you there. I can't hear you. Usually I would be able to potentially hear you if I plugged the headphones in there. And there we go. So now I've got basically my microphone should be going in. And with any luck, if you were to say something, I would hear you, but I cannot hear you. Now, what we can do is we can try this again. I assume you've got those like two cables, right? Where it's basically taking your microphone in. Yeah. Well, I tell you what, remove the microphone and basically just talk into your Mac. Let's see if we can at least do that. Remove your headphones, pull everything out of your Mac, and the only thing that we throw back and forth is video. And let's just see if it works that way. Because if it works without the microphone and without the headphones, which it should, then we should be able to go to the next step, which is so you've got everything unplugged and you can hear me on the Mac right now? And again, for all I know, this may be me. I could have sworn I did this before. But yeah, I'm not getting any audio from you, and I do not have you muted. So you can hear me, okay? Is that what that thumbs up means? Okay, so now I'm hearing myself, which I assume is you playing YouTube. And he went away. So Rob's gone. Oh no. So hold on. All right, well, let me do this. Let me add hey, how you doing, Clay? What's going on, buddy? Can you hear me okay, Clay? So I don't know if this is working out. All right, well, let me do this. Let me add hey, how you doing, Clay? What's going on, buddy? Can you hear me okay, Clay? You guys need to turn me off on your end.
This is working out.
I'm seeing audio come in from you, Rob. So as long as you turn off, like turn down your speakers, basically, like put on headphones.
You guys need to turn me off on your end.
Yeah, like I'm hearing, I guess, the YouTube stream on your end, which is, obviously like 10, 15 seconds delayed. So like put headphones on or something like that. Otherwise, it's going to feed back through your microphone. Does that make sense?
I'm back.
Okay, cool. Now I can hear you all day long. I am hearing you, Clay. Absolutely. So like put headphones on or something like that. Otherwise, it's going to feed back through your microphone. The best thing to do is to put headphones on and turn off YouTube. Because if you listen to YouTube, then you'll...
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, sir. Absolutely. Now I can hear you all day long. I am hearing you, Clay.
Okay.
Yeah. And hopefully you don't hear me with too much delay. The best thing to do is to put headphones on and turn off YouTube. Because if you listen to YouTube, then I can hear you, sir. Absolutely. Now, just so you guys know, there is a solution out there, meaning all the other people watching. Yeah. There is a solution out there that arguably is a little bit more elegant, and that's called StreamYard, and you've probably seen some other guys use that. So yeah, the only thing that you should be listening to on your end is me and not YouTube. So make sure you've closed out YouTube. Yeah, just so you guys know, there is a solution out there.
Yeah. And hopefully you don't hear me with too much delay.
Watching out there that arguably is a little bit more elegant, and that's called StreamYard, and you probably
I don't see you, Mike. You're not in the green room on my end.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, just so you guys know, there is a solution out there, meaning all the other people watching. There is a solution out there that arguably is a little bit more elegant, and that's called StreamYard, and you've probably seen some other guys use that. So.
Okay, so now you just showed up in the private chat, Rob.
Is me and not YouTube. So
the problem is that there is quite a bit of feedback for sure, probably coming from you guys. So just make sure that the only audio that you're sending over here is just your voice and not audio from YouTube or anything like that. Because I can tell you're definitely sending me YouTube audio because it's like a 15-second delay with everything I hear from you guys. Does that make sense?
How about now?
I can hear you now, Clay.
Okay.
And you can hear me with maybe only 1 or 2 seconds delay, I guess?
Yes, I can hear you.
Awesome, man. That's totally cool. So, Clay, where are you in the Philippines?
I'm in Iligan City.
Ah, nice. Right on. So you've been over there solid for 3 years.
Pardon?
You've been over there for 3 years straight?
Yes.
Nice. Cool. You like it?
I love it here.
Good for you, man. That's awesome. That's totally awesome.
So now we get an alien certificate of registration, ACR card.
Okay.
That's good for 1 year. Then you keep going to immigration. Outside of Manila, you renew for 2 months. In Manila, you renew for 6 months.
Okay.
And after 3 years, you have to leave the country for 24 hours.
Ah, okay. So that's the run you're talking about having to do.
Yes, my original plan was to go to Hong Kong, but then this virus come out, and everybody said don't go to Hong Kong. So I changed to Bangkok.
Fair enough.
I already have my tickets, but The Philippines isn't allowing visas. They're not giving any more visas.
Yeah, I heard that.
So if I leave, I can't get back in. So I'm not going to leave until I know I can get back in because I live here. All my stuff is here.
Totally. Makes sense.
So that's where I'm at right now. I have the tickets. I'm just waiting to see what's going on.
Now, are they doing over there what they're doing here with the visas, meaning that like if your visa is expiring, they're like, don't worry about it, we'll just automatically extend it?
Yes. They are saying don't worry about your visa until after lockdown, after quarantine. Then you have 30 days to get in and get your visa updated.
Okay. That makes sense.
My visa, I go to Iligan City and I'm updated. Iligan City's open. And I go into the city even though we're on quarantine. I wear the mask. I go into the city. I go to immigration, and I get my visa extended. Now I just did that. I just did that here. I think last week or the week before, because I expired May 2. Now I expire July 2, and that's my 3 years.
Hello, we're there now.
So I have
so July, that's not too bad. Yeah.
We're there now.
Now, how much is the round trip ticket to do that? I mean, it's probably not that much, right?
$200.
Oh, that's totally reasonable.
10,000
yeah, totally
pesos.
reasonable.
But then here's a killer, because you cannot come in as an expat. You cannot come into the Philippines without an exiting ticket.
Right.
So
sure.
I have to buy a throwaway ticket.
Yeah, that's true.
A ticket I'm not going to use. That's going to Singapore.
Okay.
That's like $80. I think the lowest I could get was like $80 for 4,000 pesos.
I just lost you guys, and I think I need to load you back in. So stand by. Oh dear. Scene.
I lost you.
Yep. Yeah, I know. I lost you guys too. That's totally my fault. I'm fixing that right now. So get rid of that and get rid of that. And then Rob is here. Yes, I am. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. I know this is like a total drag, but hold on.
Joe says he can hear Rob. That's good. At least someone can hear me.
I can totally hear you. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, Mike.
Yes.
But I can still hear you on the stream too. I have to mute that part.
Oh, okay.
All right. Now I've muted your YouTube and I'm just on the green room.
Okay. Let me make sure I get all the right people in here. Let me add him back in.
What time was your friend calling? I thought you had to go talk to your friend.
Yeah, you're right. I literally just noticed that. It's 11:48 and I need to call him in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
So that kind of sucks. But
welcome to the Thailand Rob live stream. No, just joking.
yeah, no, this is probably a good thing that we're not doing this on your channel, right? Because everyone will be like, "Oh my God, he's been doing videos."
I would just keep going on my channel and be done because you go make your phone call. Oh my God. Anyway, the reason my microphone didn't work in the beginning was because I'll tell you later. It was my fault.
Okay. And like right now, you're basically hearing me in real time. There may be a 1 or 2 second delay, but for the most part, like you just hear me like you're hearing me like I'm hearing you.
Exactly.
Okay, good. All right. And let me just make sure you can see this in the private chat. I'm just going to type a word. And hopefully you will see that.
And I typed back.
Very good. All right. So we're jamming there. So unfortunately, Clay is not here, but that's probably okay. Now, the weird thing is that I cannot control your audio, but I was able to. But anyway, you sound basically the same as me. So that's good.
Okay. You mean I sound just as sexy as you?
No, wow. That would never occur, as it turns out.
Man, oh my God. I know. Compliment for a Sunday afternoon.
I mean, it's good to have goals, right?
Yeah. You were talking about the Nightwish group giving away thousands and thousands of food. It's so remarkable. And they were doing that here yesterday. I saw my neighbor, she just gave away 262 meals within 15, 20 minutes tops.
Dude, that's awesome. That's so awesome. Because here's the thing, right? I mean, arguably, those guys seem to get hassled, or at least they get bad press based on people's judgment. Yeah. And so the fact that this is like showing up and being awesome, I love that.
The CEO of that company, he started out with, I think, 600 meals. Then he jumped it to 8. And then the last count, he was doing 1,000 or 1,200. And the grand total number is so big that I don't even remember what it was. But yeah, people were still trying to hassle him. And remember that sign? I've got to find out what that name of that sign is that you and I talked about that Kevin was reading.
Oh yeah, the one that they credit Mother Teresa for potentially.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter how much good you do in this world. They'll try to knock it down within days.
No, absolutely. So. I mean, it's just, but you know what's cool is that I'm trying to think where I heard about it. I want to say, I think I heard about it in The Tiger. Have you heard of that paper?
Yeah, I read The Tiger. I read The Tiger. That sounds so old right there. Yeah, every morning I wake up, I grab my coffee and read The Tiger.
I look at the Google.
Hey, I got a question for you while you're sitting here. In the green room, all I see picture-wise is your background. Can you put your bald head in that picture?
You know what? If I had a dime for everyone who asked me that.
Because I wouldn't mind talking to you instead of this bird's cam view.
Oh, instead of the okay. Let me do this. I'm gonna go. I may go away because I need to hit refresh. So stand by.
You're never gonna go away.
I know. Just close.
Yeah, you did. You did go away. Oh my God, your poor viewers. I bet you're down to 11 now since we started this. Nope. You're still at 20.
Okay. So.
Oh, goodness gracious. I shouldn't have asked you to do this. I apologize.
No. It's okay. It's okay. I don't mind.
I just was looking at the bird view instead of the live stream view.
Instead of the mic view. I get it. So.
And now I don't have anything.
Now you don't have anything? You should just be you.
It says hold tight.
Yeah, whatever you do, hold tight.
I'm actually seeing that the bird cam has dropped, or I'm just seeing the window ledge.
Oh yeah, it probably fell over.
It fell over.
Mm.
It's a beautiful ledge. It's clean.
Well, I'll tell you, and considering the amount of pigeons I get there, because of course that is the pigeon cam.
And for people who don't know, ledges and buildings in Thailand typically are not clean on the outside.
Notoriously dirty.
They don't believe
Absolutely.
in. They don't like this idea of painting more than once.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, isn't that weird? You'd think that they would. I mean, the newer ones actually, the newer buildings, those seem to get like power washed, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It just really is something that I noticed 3-4 years ago, that when they build it, they're done. And a lot of times just years go by, and people often think that Thailand's dirty just because
Mm-hmm.
when you are on the BTS, you're going down the road, you see all these buildings and there's just all this weathered look.
Yeah, I mean, and it's funny because I don't know, like, for example, if it were to rain right now, would all of that wash away because
No.
there's like less pollution? Not all of it wash away, but would there be less, I guess is the question.
Oh, well, probably, of course. Oh, now that you mentioned that, a Thai culture, superstition, Thai superstition.
Okay, go.
The first huge rain of the season, you are to stay inside for at least the first hour or two. Do you
Really?
know
And
why?
that's no, I don't know why. Now tell me all about that. I want to kind of be a farmer now.
Because because the first huge rain of the season, they consider it the cleansing rain, and
Ah,
it's bringing all of the toxins from, just like you said, the buildings, the trees, the air, it's cleaning everything. And they say that that is not the rain that you need to be in or drinking or anything like that. You need to stay away from it as it cleans the atmosphere.
okay.
So that's their thing. And also, they don't like rain. They think rain makes you sick. I think you already know that part.
Yeah, that one I knew. I was amazed. I remember asking this friend of mine. I'm like, "Oh, are you going to work this morning? I hear it's raining." And she goes, "Oh, no, I can't go to work. It's raining." And I'm like, "Wait, what?" Like I tried to use that excuse in the past, and my dad was like, "Get your ass to school."
Oh God, we used to have so much fun in the South. They would threaten that it might snow and school would cancel. Where the people up north, they're sitting there going to school in tanks.
Yeah, right, exactly. Ah, hold on. I think I hear Clay. Let me see if I can do this. Aha! Look at that. All right, hold on. Let me throw you up top, man, and make sure I get this working.
Oh
And then
boy, here we go.
I know. I mean, now to be fair, see, there's a lot to be said for StreamYard, because all you got to do with that is just press one button and blam. And
That's what she said.
you know what, dude? I mean, can you get out of the 6th grade? Claire, what's happening?
Oh, technical difficulties.
Yeah, tons of them actually, and but here's the bummer, guys, is that it is 3 minutes before noon, which means I actually need to go.
Yep.
Because I got to call my buddy, so I'm really really sorry about that. But Rob, what we need to do later today? Go ahead, Clay.
I would like for you to know I'm on my iPhone.
Ah, that's good to know. I didn't know it worked on a phone. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that, dude.
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm sorry,
but I'm on my iPhone.
Okay.
I'm gonna go ahead and
That's cool.
sign off, and I'll talk to you guys later. I'll talk to you later, Mike.
Absolutely, Rob. I'll ping you. Yeah, I got to go, guys. I just realized that it's actually 2 minutes before noon. So, Clay, thank you for coming by. Thank you for letting me know that it actually works on an iPhone. That's huge. And I definitely want to have you. I definitely want to have you back, man. Is now like a good time? I mean, now it's obviously daytime in the Philippines, but is now a good time for you normally?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome. All right, that's great.
Anytime's a good time for me.
That's good.
I'm retired.
Yeah, trust me, I get it.
54 years old, retired.
Good for you, man.
Needless to say, I'm a PWD, handicap,
person
with disability.
Okay.
Motorcycle accident messed up the whole right side of my body, so.
Ouch.
I'm on crutches.
Okay. And do you find it difficult to get around over there? Because I mean,
no,
it's not real. It's difficult. Yeah.
No, it's not.
Hmm.
I get in the jeepneys. I usually sit in the front.
Okay.
People are kind. If they're in the front, they'll move to the back, and I sit in the front. I get around just fine.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Cool. Well, shoot, guys, on that note, I'm going to have to go because I got 1 minute to call my buddy. So thank you very, very much. I'm sorry about the technical difficulties at the end. Thank you for being patient, Clay. That was awesome, dude. It was really good to have you here.
You're welcome, and thank you.
Right on.